Well, a couple of new faces on the Seahawk offense. Not only is Rick Mirer back in the starting lineup, so is Chris Warren. Sat out last week's game, the All-Pro running back with a bruised knee, although we will see a lot of Lamar Smith, his running mate, who picked up 148 yards last week in that loss to Detroit. 33 rushes, 148 yards in his very first career start. The 33 carries were the second most in Seahawks history. Only Chris Warren's 36 and 93 was more than that. Seattle has won the toss. Cole Ford to kick off for the Oakland Raiders. Steve Broussard back at the goal line, ready to receive. Both teams devastating losses last week, perhaps ending their playoff hopes, but still mathematically alive. Broussard fumbles the football as he comes up to receive it, gets back up on his feet and returns it close to the 25-yard line, where Rick Mirer will begin. This is the first start since Game 5, the end of September, for Mirer. And in back of him, Max Strong, spot duty last week. He's back in the starting lineup along with Chris Warren. Ricky Prohl still starting for Brian Blades, although we expect to see him in the lineup today after missing a couple of games with a separated shoulder. Crumpler is the tight end, and up front, Atkins, the rookie Kendall, along with Mawai, Graham, and the house, Howard Ballard. Two tight end formation for Seattle as they begin 1st and 10 from the 26. And Mirer to the air on first down. In trouble, he'll run it, and he's got a lot of room ahead of him. Mirer close to midfield. Gain of 19 for Mirer on his first start back since the end of September.
This is a great way to start for a young kid. You know, they start with a script. I'm sure this was not part of the script, though. He's supposed to let that ball go down the field, but he reads it. And one of the things that Mike White told us yesterday was that Rick Mirer is much more mobile than John Freese, and they were going to have to spy for this guy. That time they didn't get it done.
One play, and already the Seahawks close to midfield. And Mirer gives to Chris Warren, and Warren gets it to the midfield stripe. As we set the Oakland Raider defense for you. Up front, Pat Swilling, over 100 career sacks. Chester McLaughlin has been the star this season. He's been to the Pro Bowl the last 2 years. Lance Johnstone is an impressive rookie out of Temple. The linebackers Morton, Beekert, and Jones. The change in the secondary, Darren Carrington is starting for Eddie Anderson, who is inactive today, out with an injured hamstring. Terry McDaniel, the star of this defensive unit. 4 interceptions, and he returned one last week for a touchdown. Just gets it off before the play clock expires. Warren, not much room at all. So after the initial big gain by Mirer, it's been tough going for Warren, brought down by Russell Maryland.
And that's 2 plays that Chris Warren doesn't look like he's running at full speed to me. Lamar Smith, we may see him a little bit as this game goes along if that continues. But, you know, when you're coming off of an injury the first time back, you're very careful. You want to measure it a little bit, and especially when you're coming back on AstroTurf inside the dome.
So Warren goes to the sidelines, and the Seahawks bring in their 3rd down back, Steve Broussard, the lone setback behind Mirer on 3rd and long. And Meyer's first pass in and out of the arms of Ricky Prohl. And so the Seahawks, after the initial big gain by Mirer, will be forced to punt.
Ricky Prohl is just going to run an out pattern. It's a very quick throw. The first down has to be made after the catch. Sometimes you don't throw the ball all the way down the field so that the catch creates the first down. You get in the ball and let him run for the first down. That was the case there, but just overthrown.
Rick Tootin to punt, and back deep, one of the greatest punt returners in NFL history, Tim Brown, needing 3 to tie. Vai Sikahema for the most in NFL history. That's another one. Fair caught, and Brown is a little disappointed that he might have called for that fair catch. He had a chance to run it out, but the Raiders will begin when we come back at their own 15. Devastating loss last week in overtime for Mike White and the Raiders, but White reminded his team this week that the Chargers were 4-7 at this point last year and won all 5 of the remaining games to make the playoffs. Hostetler slips and falls on his first play, but gets it out to Tim Brown. And Brown is close to a first down out to the 24-yard line. Brought down by Winston Moss as we set the Oakland offense for you. Napoleon Kaufman, the featured back. He along there with Derek Fenner, Brown, and Jet. The wideouts, Ricky Dudley, the rookie tight end out of Ohio State. There's a change up front for the Raiders. Pat Harlow, the former Patriot, gets the start at left tackle for the injured Robert Jenkins, out with an injured knee. So a gain of 9 for Brown on the first play for the Raiders, and now Hostetler gives it to Kaufman, and he's got the first down. Napoleon Kaufman, the former Washington Husky, as the ball came loose, but it's called down. Brought down by Terry Wooden as we check out the front four for Seattle. Very impressive all season long, especially lately, has been the play of Sam Adams and Cortez Kennedy up front. Michael Sinclair has 9 sacks, has not had one, though, in the last 3 games. The linebackers, Wooden, Wells, and the former Raider, Winston Moss. The corners are Gray and Harris. The safeties, Blackman and Williams. So 1st and 10 for the Raiders after 2 plays in their opening series of this game. 11:38 left in the first quarter. And Hostetler to the air again, looking for Brown again. This time it's incomplete. Winston Moss on the coverage of Tim Brown.
It's not surprising to see him go to Tim Brown early. The last 3 times they played the Seattle Seahawks, Tim Brown's caught the ball for over 100 yards each time. This is going to be, now watch Tim Brown right up here at the corner. His shoulders are facing forward. We're going to watch that tendency. When they're facing forward, it tips the pass. A little bit of a rollout. He breaks the backfield a little bit to the right, Jeff Hostetler does. Just leads him. When you're rolling to the right, throw right at the receiver because the ball tends to flow.
It's been somewhat of a mystery, though, Sam, this offense all season for the Raiders. As Kaufman gets the carry in a big hole for another first down. He fumbles the football, and the Seahawks have it. That is Corey Harris who recovered it after the fumble by Kaufman.
Napoleon Kaufman actually fumbled the first carry that he had, but they ruled him down before the fumble. This time clearly up. Ball just going straight up the middle behind that big offensive line. See, both guards are going to pull and trap. Straight up the middle. The ball is held too far away from his body.
Robert Blackman caused the fumble. First appearance by the former Pro Bowler Brian Blades in a couple of weeks. Separated his shoulder here in Seattle against Houston and has sat out the last couple of games, but he has led the Seahawks in receptions the last 3 years and 5 of the last 7. He's a big addition back in the Seattle offense this week. 1st and 10. Seahawks trying to take advantage of the Kaufman fumble set up at the 49. And Meyer gives it to Warren, and Warren this time has a hole and plunges through it up to the 43-yard line. Back to the fumble by Kaufman.
Just a moment ago now, Kaufman's coming straight up the middle. You see him break through the middle right here. Now watch where he carries the ball. See how far away from his body it is? You're just asking for a fumble to happen. And Darrell Williams comes in, strips it loose. Blackman finishes him off. And Seattle has the ball. 2nd down.
And 2nd and short as you take a look at Kaufman, the former Husky. There are a lot of former Huskies on this Raider team. Get into that a little bit later on. 2nd down and short. This time play action. Meyer to the left. Joey Galloway. And Galloway dives in inside the 25-yard line for another Seattle first down. Terry McDaniel finally brought Galloway down. Galloway needs to average just 68 reception yards the last 5 games to become the 4th player in history to go 1,000 yards in his first 2 seasons.
Token fake by Rick Meyer right there. The reason for that is just to hold the linebackers long enough to throw it in behind them. Good throw. This is man-to-man coverage. You can see that everybody's running one-on-one down the field. Expect to see a lot of man-to-man coverage, but always with a free safety in the middle.
From the 25. Meyer to the air again, and this time Mike Pritchard can't hang on. That was a little high, but very catchable for Pritchard.
Lorenzo Lynch, the safety, was out there covered. They had a mismatch right there. Rick Meyer reading the defense and going to the correct guy. Outside release, burst, and then come back up underneath him. I don't think Lorenzo Lynch is going to, or excuse me, that is Carl Kidd, excuse me. I don't think Carl Kidd is going to stay with. You know, that hit right there is the same thing that they were complaining about a week ago, and it's not anything you can complain about.
That was Chester McLaughlin knifing in. Chris Warren knifing right on 2nd down and 10. Lance Johnstone, the rookie out of Temple, brings him down.
There was a big controversy last week, Seattle playing Detroit, that they were getting, the quarterbacks were being tackled low. And John Tierlick, the defensive line coach of Detroit, getting criticized. And there's John Freese right there, who's out. Suffered a broken bone in his leg as a result of getting hit low, but it wasn't intentional. As I looked at the films, I don't think those were intentional hits, and they weren't coaching to hurt anybody. They were coaching to play hard.
Bizarre, though, Sam, it happened in the first quarter. He played the rest of the game before Rick Meyer finally replaced him at the beginning of the fourth quarter. And so Meyer has his opportunity down the stretch the last 5 games. On third down, Meyer's back being chased by McLaughlin, buying some time. Meyer on his feet, hurtling across inside the 20, and flags come in as Meyer is down out of bounds. McLaughlin was over there. Also, Russell Maryland was over there on the sidelines when the flags came in.
You know, if that's a running back going down the sideline, I don't think they throw the flag. But a quarterback, they're going to protect him more. And McLaughlin, who the guess is
personal foul, unnecessary roughness, number 97 defense. Late hit out of bounds, half the distance to the goal, first down.
And it's called a Russell Maryland. Rick Meyer sets up, breaks to the right, good blocking up front in the protection aspect. Up the sideline. Now, you know, right there, he's not clearly out of bounds, and you've got, as a defender, you've got to try to stop every inch of the game that you can. I don't think that's a penalty that should be called. It's not a cheap hit. It's not at the head. It's not low. It's right on the sideline, not clearly out of bounds, but they're going to protect the quarterback.
So the former Cowboy Russell Maryland called for a big penalty, and so Seattle has it first and goal from the 8-yard line, but this is a situation that Seattle's had a lot of difficulty scoring. They were 4 times at the 7-yard line last week against Detroit and came away with only 3 field goals. Chris Warren, maybe a yard, and that is it. In fact, it's gotten so bad for Seattle, Sam, that they've called it the dead zone instead of the red zone. It has been that awful for the Seahawks trying to score and take advantage of good field position.
Well, I know Dennis Erickson, you can see the expression on his face. He knows he's in that area where they have not had success. One interesting stat, they've been down here first and goal. That means inside the 10-yard line 14 times this season. They've only scored 7 touchdowns. The offensive brain thrust up, calling the plays from upstairs.
3rd worst in the NFL. Bob Bratkowski, the offensive coordinator for Erickson. 2nd down and goal from the 7. And a play action. Meyer looking to the end zone, and it's caught by Blades. But Blades quickly brought down by Mike Jones, so that'll bring up 3rd and goal. So Brian Blades finally has a reception for the first time in a long time and trying to fire up the Kingdome.
Good for him. I think he ought to. This is not a sellout crowd. A little disenchantment with a lot of things going on with a stadium issue that we'll talk about later. And also just the record of the ball club right here. But having Brian Blades is a boost, not only to the team, but it ought to boost the fans too, sitting in here cheering for their football team. This is the down now. They've been here many times, and we've just talked about how unsuccessful they've been. You're looking at a field goal if they can't get it in on this 3rd down try.
3rd and goal from the 3. Fake to Warren. Meyer looking for someone in the end zone, just flings it out in Oscar Gray's vicinity, but he had no one open. And the Seahawks will once again have to settle for the field goal.
From the 3 or the 4-yard line that time, the Raiders had 7 people in coverage, only 4 people up pushing against the quarterback. And when he broke contain, they really didn't have that. You can see how clear his view is down the field, but everybody downfield in coverage. And Mike Morton right there to knock it away at the last moment.
So Todd Peterson on to attempt a short field goal. Remember, he missed the 42-yard field goal by inches as time ran out last week in the loss to Detroit. This one from just 21 yards out. And with 7:12 left in the first quarter, the Seahawks get on the board. Although they would have liked to have scored a touchdown, they lead it 3-0. Seattle helped on that series by the penalty against Russell Maryland. And Sam, there has been some inconsistencies from the officiating this year.
Well, I just think it's a reaction by Jerry Seaman, head of officials with the league office, because Rick Meyer was running down the sideline. He didn't jump out of bounds to his right. He jumped forward, crossing the out of bounds line. And Maryland had to do his job, and let's go ahead and finish the playoff.
Well, Napoleon Kaufman, who coughed it up a little bit earlier, back deep for the Raiders from the 5, taking Peterson's kick across the 20 and spinning his way close to the 30-yard line, brought down by Philip Daniels. So let's take our first scoring update and head to New York and Greg Gumbel. Greg?
All right, Dan, at Baltimore, a Vinny Testaverde fumble set up Jacksonville's chance from 7 yards out. Mark Brunell to Willie Jackson, 25-23, and then Brunell on the rollout will find the end zone himself for the 2-point conversion. They're tied at 25. Baltimore driving under a minute remaining in the game. Dan.
All right, Greg, exciting one there, just underway here in Seattle. Midway through the first quarter, the Raiders on their second offensive series, and down goes Hostetler in trouble at the 20. Well, the usual suspects were in there, including Sam Adams and Cortez Kennedy.
And then I think right at the end, Mike McCrary comes in there and finishes everything off as Jeff Hostetler tried to twist out of harm's way. You can see the pressure right there by Cortez Kennedy initially, and there comes McCrary in to finish it off. Just a surge from the defensive line. That's a big offensive line that they're pushing, too.
Adams and Kennedy have been a force, especially the last month or two. Play action for Hostetler this time, far side of the field. James Jett is nailed by Corey Harris.
Corey Harris just timed up the hit. That one really very close to a fumble, because if possession is held in both hands and both feet are on the ground, it should be a possession. Let's see if we can see what happens. There's the catch, and both feet are down. That should be a fumble. He doesn't have to bring it into his body.
I don't know if it was clear he had control. Let's take another look.
There, maybe not. You're right. He second grabbed that ball. Official is correct.
3rd down and 20. Hostetler fumbles the exchange. It'll be 4th and 20. And those are the kinds of inexplicable things that have been happening to the Raider offense as a flag has come in. But we talked off the top of the telecast how the Raiders have been more of a mystery. I think their offense falls right in that category.
Well, they've only scored 21 points in the first quarter. That's not very good.
Full start on number 63, offense. Prior to the snap, 5-yard penalty, 3rd down.
That
we know one thing.
Barrett Robbins.
The microphone is working, and the speaker system is working good for the officials today for Jerry Markwright. You can see the exchange mishandled right here. Sometimes the center will not pull it all the way back, or the quarterback will pull away a little bit early. Let's see if we can tell what happens here. Jeff Hostetler pulls away. The center may have been a little late coming up with the ball, though.
3rd and 25. Raiders' second most penalized team in the NFL pick up another one. And on the draw, it's Harvey Williams. And he picks up a good gain, but does not even get back to the original line of scrimmage. Carlton Gray, along with Winston Moss, brought down Williams, and the Raiders will punt it away.
Still a good call, because all you've done is you've added about 10 yards to whatever this punt is going to be right now. If you try to throw the ball, it's incomplete, and you're punting backed up. At least get yourself back into a position and play the game, the battle of field position a little bit on this series.
Well, there's your old coaching assistant Mike White from your days with San Francisco, way back in '79 and '80.
We had a few good times. We used to run together every Monday to get our mind clear. Here's the
fake punt. Jeff Gossett's running it out, and he's pounded short of the 1st down. Number 33. Williams nailed Gossett short of the 1st down.
Darrell Williams having a good day. He stripped Napoleon Kaufman earlier. Makes the big play here. Rusty Tillman, the special teams coach for the Raiders, pulling out a little trick right here, backed up. Anything goes in a game like this. With the record where it is and the season this far along, you're going to see plays like this. It's a sound football play, just countered by a sounder defensive play led by Darrell Williams. And there's Rusty Tillman. Rusty was my defensive coordinator last year in Tampa Bay, and of course was the special teams coach here in Seattle for about 16 years.
So Seattle with more good field position off the Oakland gamble, and down goes Rick Meyer. That is Chester McLaughlin, his 5th sack of the season.
Chester McLaughlin's going against the rookie Pete Kendall. out of Boston College. Let's see if we can see how he beats him. He just goes right by him. It looks like Pete was a little bit late getting off the ball there. The offense knows the snap count. They should be the first team moving, but Chester was the first one coming off.
Big play by McLaughlin, Pro Bowler the last 2 years, and the ball back at the 44-yard line. Second and long, Chris Warren up to the 40 for a gain of about 4. That'll bring up third and long. Lorenzo Lynch makes the stop on him.
Chris Warren running a little better that time. You can see as the game goes on, first couple of carries that he had, he didn't look like he was running with full authority. That time he was. 6 carries, 17 yards, though the numbers are looking good.
That game he missed last week, Sam, was the first he had missed since the '93 season. He was set to wear a brace on that knee today to protect it, as the Seahawks now face with a 3rd and 12. Meyer chased out of the pocket again, just loops it out of bounds. And a flag comes in as Meyer went down.
Lorenzo Lynch, the safety, blitzed on that play, forcing Rick Meyer out of the pocket, but Jerry Markbright may be ruling that he wasn't clearly out of the tackle-to-tackle pocket. And if he throws it away and he's inside that area,
the quarterback was out of the pocket. There is no grounding on the play. The quarterback was out of the pocket.
You know what happened right there is Markbright felt he was in the pocket, but he went up and checked with the umpire to make sure. They decided that he was out of the pocket, therefore you can throw the ball away without a penalty. Here, he's in the pocket. Here's Lorenzo Lynch coming up in the blitz along with Lance Johnstone. He was just outside that tackle area. When we say tackle to tackle, wherever the offensive right and left tackle line up, you draw a line straight back. If he's in between that, he can't throw it away.
So Rick Tootin trying to pin the Raiders back deep. Try to hang a high one, and Brown calls for the fair catch just inside the 15-yard line. So with 4:29 left in the first quarter, it remains Seattle 3, Oakland nothing. Well, Sam, we mentioned you being an assistant with Mike White back in San Francisco. You were the passing director on that 49er team?
As opposed to coordinator. In other words, I took my orders from Bill Walsh.
Hostetler back to pass, almost falls down, stays on his feet, gets it out to the far side to Harvey Williams, who bounces back up. And Williams has the first down, but a flag has been thrown at the 15. Terry Wooden ran Harvey Williams out of bounds. And we'll once again hear from Jerry Markbright. And another penalty against the Raiders.
Illegal forward pass. Quarterback was beyond the line, number 15. 5-yard penalty. Loss of down. 3-second down.
Somewhat of a microcosm, Sam, of the Raiders' offensive problems so far.
Well, they came into this game the second most penalized team in the league. As we watch the last play right here, let's see if we see him cross the line of scrimmage. Only Jacksonville is being penalized more, 104 times. The Raiders 103 coming into this ball game. And the ruling is if his foot or any portion of his body as the motion starts is across the line, it's a penalty. And you can see Al Davis, and that's Al Locasal sitting next to him there with the binoculars, watching their team, not happy with the penalties either.
Long stretch it's been after they won 3 in a row. They've lost the last 3. As Harvey Williams gets the call again on 2nd and long, and that'll bring up another 3rd and long for the Raiders. As you take a look at Mike White, we know what your title was back in San Francisco. What exactly did Mike White do?
You know, we had to ask Mike. I couldn't remember what he did with the 49ers. This was right before he became the head coach at the University of Illinois, and he had been on the staff before Bill Walsh came, and he was actually in charge of getting the cars for the guys. There were a lot of good coaches, as you can see, that have come through Bill Walsh discipleship, so to speak. Very grateful that was one of them.
But perhaps Mike White was the best courtesy car coach in the history of the 49ers.
Without question.
3rd and 13 for Hostetler. Once again, he'll run it out and diving for what is very close to a first down.
Now the technicality here is as long as he is leading with his shoulders and head, it's wherever he slides until someone on the defense touches him. If he were to concede the tackle going feet first, it's where he first touches the ground. Protection looks to be holding up pretty good. You want the quarterback steps up into the pocket. There's a good, nice hole there by the left guard Wisniewski, but when you're a veteran like that, you get away with that kind of stuff. But once he crossed that line, sliding forward, he gets every inch he can get on the slide.
Nice run by Hostetler. Picks up the first down for the Raiders at the 25. Hostetler to the air, in and out of the arms of Tim Brown. You don't see that very often. Dean Wells on the coverage, but that's one Brown knew he should have had.
A three-step drop by Jeff Hostetler, meaning that he expects a quick throw, but because the zone defense dropped underneath it, you see the inside move right here, but because the linebackers are dropping, he had to hold it for a second, and in that process, sometimes you let the ball go right behind the linebacker, and the receiver doesn't find the ball until it's about halfway there.
We've seen just about all of the miscues you can make on offense by the Raiders. Penalties, drop passes, fumbles. This is Harvey Williams. And Harvey Williams will go down in his tracks at the 25 as well. With 2:32 left in county in the first quarter. Cortez Kennedy there on the stop.
Sam Adams with a little bit of a limp. His dad, Sam Sr., back in Houston, is watching every move he's making. Sam, we're going to keep you updated on whether Sam Jr. is coming off the ball like you want him to. We'll talk about that in the story a little bit later on.
He is the biggest critic that Sam Jr. has ever had in his entire football career. Sam, in fact, says he's got to take notes back in Houston because he remembers so many things that I do wrong. 3rd down and 10 now for Hostetler. Guns it over the middle, and this time Tim Brown hangs on for a first down. Corey Harris finally brought him down, but that is what Tim Brown can do on those slants across the middle.
You know, the big-time players in any business, big-time performers in business or in sports business, they may make a mistake, as Tim Brown did on the previous play, but he comes right back and catches one thrown slightly behind him, never breaks stride, just bends his hands and turns his hip and makes the catch. Sam Adams on the last snap was up in the backfield up there, but not before Jeff Hostetler could get that ball off.
1st and 10 for Oakland. Just across the 47, Kaufman left side. And run out of bounds. Napoleon Kaufman averaging 5.5 yards per carry. He's actually tied with his teammate Joe Aska for 2nd in the AFC. As you take a look at some of the other scores, Denver with a big comeback win over Minnesota. San Francisco, overtime winner over the Redskins. Interesting day of Week 13 in the NFL.
Joe Nash has made his appearance. The longtime Seattle Seahawk.
214th game, extending his team record. Joe Nash, who rejoined the Seahawks after thinking he was out of football earlier this year. Hostetler to the air and over Tim Brown. He was just throwing it away as Haas took another shot.
Joe Nash, a few years ago, on every 3rd down, had a real tough problem with his knees. When I was coaching the Cincinnati Bengals, we were running the no-huddle offense, and from the sideline, Chuck Knox would just shoot him from the sideline, and he would go down, grab that knee, and of course they get their substitutions on, and we would have to, if we couldn't execute that no-huddle offense, that was their kind of. He came in the locker room yesterday. We were in there, and we had a nice laugh about it.
He couldn't wait to see you. And hey, Coach, how you doing with that wry smile?
He's a good one.
Mysteriously injured Joe Nash. Hostetler to the near side. Ricky Dudley incomplete. And Gossett will come in to punt it away again.
Pressure in Hostetler's face. He couldn't step into the throw, and the ball just died right in front of Ricky Hudley, the rookie from Ohio State. Good setup, climbs up into the pocket, as all good quarterbacks do, but as you can see, Mike Sinclair, who had a lot of sacks early in the season, but has been very quiet of late. Sam Adams and Cortez Kennedy taken over very nicely, though, along with Mike McCrary on the defensive line.
Joe Bugle, assistant head coach. And Jeff Gossett, 15-year veteran, hanging it high to Joey Galloway. Galloway calls for the fair catch at the 15-yard line. Well, next Sunday, NBC Sports has more exciting action beginning at 12 noon Eastern Time. Most of you will see a battle in the AFC East as the Colts host Jim Kelly and the Bills, and Buffalo has been impressive this season. Buffalo winning again today. Others will see AFC Central matchups, Steelers and the Ravens, or the Bengals take on the Jaguars. Then in the second half of the doubleheader, most of you will see these Raiders take on the Dolphins. Others will see the hottest team in the NFL, the Denver Broncos, battle these Seahawks. Seattle with a 3-0 lead, 27 seconds left in the first quarter. As they begin this drive deep in their own territory, Chris Warren bringing some Raiders close to the 20-yard line. And that should be the final play of the opening quarter.
Well, last week against Minnesota, the run defense of the Raiders was exposed a little bit. 182 yards gained against them, and that was by a team, Minnesota, that had only gained 74 yards in the 3 previous games combined.
Previous week to that, they gave up a lot of yards against a Tampa Bay team that was having a tough time running. Into the first in Seattle, the Seahawks up 3-0. Well, we talked about the tough losses for the Raiders. Dennis Erickson told us that loss on the missed field goal in the waning seconds against Detroit last week, the toughest he has ever been associated with.
You know, what made it really tough was they were riding a 3-game winning streak. And coming into this ball game, I had to remind him, hey, you won 3 of the last 4. But it hurts as a coach.
That was Todd Peterson, who missed on a 42-yard attempt that would have won it against the Lions. Seahawks begin with a big gain by Warren. Warren marked out of bounds across the 40. Lewis and Carrington finally ran him out of bounds, but the Seahawks, one thing that has been consistent is the way they've been running the football. Huge game by Lamar Smith last week, and a big game by Warren there at 21.
Watch on the backside right here. This is Pete Kendall coming around, trying to clean up, but everything is outside. There's really no contain. If you are the in man on the line of scrimmage for the Oakland Raiders, you can't get hooked. That time they did.
8 carries, 43 yards for Warren, who has 4 straight seasons of 1,000 yards or more rushing. He will fall short of that this season as he came into the game with just over 500 yards, but a timeout on the field called by the Oakland Raiders just seconds into the second. Well, if Chris Warren was the last best-kept secret up here in the Northwest, Sam, Lamar Smith, the secret is out on him. The huge game last week, 148 yards in his first career start, 33 carries, but Warren remains in the game as the lone setback for Seattle. 1st and 10 from the 41. And Meyer to the left side. It's in and out of the arms of Joey Galloway. On the coverage was Terry McDaniel, the Pro Bowler the last 4 years, who returned an interception for a touchdown last week for the 5th time, the most in Raiders history, a new Raider record.
Just a hitch play is terminology. Runs down 5 steps, plants, and the quarterback throws the ball to a spot. That one's not one that you're trying to hit a man in the top quarter as he runs down the field. You throw to that spot, the receiver's job is to get there, and you've got to just beat the timing of the defensive back. That time Terry McDaniel was better than they were.
On 2nd and 10, Meyer just dumps it out, trying to set up the screen to Chris Warren, but the Raiders all over it. Leading the way, Lance Johnstone, the 2nd-round pick out of Temple.
Or if you're Mike White on the sideline and you see your 2nd-round pick, a rookie this year, that reads the screen. He's playing, is he coming up? This is called 2-gap. You see him push right in there. He's looking past everything, sees the ball thrown, frees himself of Howard Ballard blocking him on the right side right there and makes the clean play.
Looks like Johnstone a little bit shaken up. The Raiders playing without Anthony Smith, the former #1 pick, who had an MRI on his elbow this week, which revealed some ligament damage, and so Anthony Smith out of the lineup. Rick Meyer scrambling in trouble, fumbles the football, and the Raiders have it.
Rick Meyer never saw Pat Swilling, who had gone by him on the pass rush, was coming back in pursuit. You know, at the top of the show, we talked about this team finishing everything they did. That time, Pat Swilling finished the play. In the pass rush, he was out of it, and then he came back. He didn't give up on the play. As long as that whistle hadn't blown, you still keep playing.
Andre Bruce recovers it. A good play by Pat Swilling, the 11-year veteran. And Rick Meyer with the first turnover of the game for the Seahawks. And Oakland sets up at the Seattle 21, trailing 3-0. Kaufman, nothing there. It's Sinclair met Kaufman in the backfield.
I tell you, Mike Sinclair and Mike McCrary are really coming up the field. Now, these are both the defensive ends. You watch them come up the field. As the ball is snapped, they are not measuring anything. They're getting into the backfield. There's two defenders that are beyond any blocking scheme. You'd have to trap them at this point. Look for either a quick trap or a draw play where you're going to set up and push them by because they're coming hard up the field.
What a combination Adams and Kennedy have been inside, and that has enabled Mike Sinclair his opportunities this season. Second down and 12. Hostetler looking right, nothing there. Finally finds his tight end, Andrew Glover. And Glover may have the first down. It'll depend on where they spot it. Needs to get to the 11-yard line. Andrew Glover with just his third reception of the season now that Ricky Dudley has taken over the starting spot at tight end.
Watch a veteran quarterback when Jeff Hostetler sets up. His eyes are to the right, nothing happening, goes to his alternate receiver, stepping up into the pocket, finds somebody open. You know, there are a lot of quarterbacks that are great out there on the practice field. They can throw the ball beautifully, but they can't find the second and third receiver. Pressure continues, though. Hostetler, I know, feels this. You see that little push right there? All that is a reminder from Mike Sinclair that I'm not far behind. Don't hold on to it any longer.
And Glover just that short from picking up the first down, so it'll be third down and about 8 inches or so.
Jerry Markbright is the referee, longtime referee in this league. A lot of people think will be the next president of their association. He has been very active in it.
Number 68 is an eligible receiver. 68 is eligible.
Jerry needs to turn down the microphone just a tad, wouldn't you say, Sam?
Either that or quit yelling, Jerry. We can hear you all right.
Well, the number 68's Rick Cunningham. He's the eligible receiver here for the Raiders on third and short. And the give is to Derek Fenner. But flags have come in. Whistle stopping the play, and we'll hear again from Mark Bright.
False start. Number 75, offense. Prior to the snap, 5-yard penalty, third down.
Pat Harlow traded from the Patriots this year, causing Joe Bugle to shake his head.
He's replacing Robert Jenkins, who's not active today, playing right here on the left side. If he moves prior to that snap, I can see it, but the whistle is blown by the umpire right there. You can see he's blowing the whistle prior to. They stop the play immediately. There is no option. They have to take the 5 yards.
So instead of third down and inches, third and 6. Hostetler hangs in again, gets it out to James Jett, who jets his way in for the touchdown.
Seattle blitzed, man-to-man coverage, the crossing pattern. Once you get one step on him with a lead throw that doesn't slow the crossing pattern down, tough to defend in man coverage.
And remember, the Raiders taking advantage of that Rick Meyer fumble for this scoring opportunity.
Watch the pattern develop across right to left. Two guys running, one actually clearing out, making a key block behind that is number 81, Tim Brown, and jets it on in.
He won the NFL's fastest man competition this year, so even if you have a chance of catching him, chances are you're just going to see number 82, and that's it. Off to the races. Cole Ford adds the extra point for Oakland. And Haas and the Raiders have the first touchdown of the game. Take the 7-3 lead with 11:51. So the Raiders take advantage of the Rick Meyer fumble. 17-yard touchdown reception by James Jett, his 4th of the season. So it only took 3 plays and just under 2 minutes for Oakland to get in.
Second quarter has been the Raiders' big quarter. They had 94 points coming in, now 101.
Cole Ford kicking off. Steve Broussard waiting the high kick from the 3. A flag comes in as Broussard dances his way out of bounds across the 25. Dan Land, the special teams player who chased Broussard out. Jerry Markbright, a busy referee so far today.
The flag is laying on the 16-yard line. That's a tough spot because the mark is from the 16. The penalty will be marked off from that point of the penalty, not from where the play finished well up the field.
Raiders have been highly penalized this year, but so have the Seahawks.
Personal foul, low block on number 23, kicking team. 15th-yard penalty from the end of the run and first down.
Lamar Lyons.
It goes the other way. Lamar Lyons just signed by the Raiders. You cannot hit below the waist. Either team cannot hit below the waist on a change of possession play. Right in the middle of the screen right there. You can see it. Run it back if we can, and I'll try to circle that one for you. Right here. He's going to hit below the waist. Neither side of the ball can hit below the waist on a change of possession. That would be a punt or kickoff, a fumble recovery, an interception. Anytime the ball changes possession, you've got to hit your opponent above the waist.
Look at the yards and penalties already by Oakland. They came into this ball game with 103 penalties for 819 yards. That has been a sore point for Al Davis and the Raiders all season again, and it has been for many, many years. As the Seahawks take advantage of the huge penalty and now at the 42-yard line. Chris Warren up the middle for another big gain up to the 49-yard line. Mike Morton brings him down, but Mike White very frustrated with the penalty, Sam, as they continue, and he says, well, maybe in the years when the Raiders had all the mystique around them, there was more aggressive penalties. He describes his team really as just committing stupid penalties.
Well, yeah, he said there are two kinds, aggressive and ignorant penalties. And these, in the past, really, the Raiders have been noted for their aggressive penalties, which you can live with a little more. Not this kind, though.
Two tight ends on 2nd down and 4. Warren again, very close to another first down. Russell Maryland on the stop for Oakland.
Dennis Erickson told us that Chris Warren would start practice this week. Lamar Smith, even though he had such a tremendous game last week, would play some, but there was no plan to put him in for a series or a quarter or anything like that. That's a tough decision for a coach when you've got two players playing well, and Steve Broussard, who's a 3rd down back, also a good runner as well as a catcher out of the backfield.
Well, Warren just short of the first down, so 3rd down and less than a yard. And Warren will get a chance to pick up the first down. Easily does it out to the Raider 42. Well, let's get another scoring update from New York and head to the studios with Greg Gumbel.
All right, Dan, it is finally over in Baltimore. An Ernest Biner fumble gives the Jaguars this chance. Mike Hollis from 34 yards out at 5:56 of overtime ends it. Jacksonville 28, the Baltimore Ravens 25. Dan?
Okay, Greg, thank you very much. The Raiders on top of Seattle 7-3, 9:45 left in the first half. Rick Meyer in a quarterback for John Freeze, looking for Joey Galloway. There was some pushing off by Terry McDaniel, and I believe McDaniel will be called for the pass interference. Obvious pushing off on Galloway.
They're bringing him on down, so it looks like a defensive penalty against McDaniel. This is a straight go pattern, or some teams call it a fly pattern or a streak pattern. Pure straight-ahead run. And what happens is that Galloway slows down because the ball is a little underthrown. It's the receiver's job to try to box out the defender so that the ball drops over the defender's shoulder and in the arms of the receiver. When he slows down, though, McDaniel, looking back for the ball, never sees it.
Pass interference, number 36, defense. Penalty is declined. The pass was completed. First down.
What was even more amazing was that Galloway hauled it in. It was a great catch by Galloway, even with the interference by McDaniel. So 1st and goal for the Seahawks, and again the dreaded dead zone.
Yeah, but I tell you, that was not a stupid or an ignorant penalty that Mike White talked about earlier. That was a penalty, not so much of aggression, but just hard play. McDaniel's eyes were back. He just didn't see the receiver slow down, ran into it.
So 1st and goal from the 2 for Seattle. The Seahawks desperately want a touchdown instead of settling for a field goal, and they got it. Number 83, Ronnie Williams. reception and his first career touchdown.
You see Dennis Erickson congratulating Rick Myers. A play-action fake, just a token fake off the left side of the offense. Roll to the right. Basic, fundamental goal line play. One receiver in the flat, and Williams deep in the corner for the touchdown.
And that touchdown set up by the big gain to Joey Galloway as the Seahawks get their first touchdown of the game. It comes with 9:13 left in the opening half. And Seattle regains the lead, 10-7. Seahawks scoring drive set up by the big Rick Mirer to Joey Galloway, 40-yard reception, and this is sweet relief for Rick Mirer, benched after a 1-4 start in favor of John Freeze. Freeze a fractured leg, and Mirer getting the start today. Napoleon Kaufman returning the Peterson kick. Another good return by Kaufman. Flags come in at the 40-yard line as Kaufman goes down. Fred Thomas brought Kaufman down.
Looked like there might have been a face mask. It's right at the very end of that run. Records go out the window when these two teams play. We're in for a very, very good football. I already have a good football game going, but it doesn't matter whether you're in or out of the playoffs.
Personal foul, face mask, number 24 of the kicking team, 15-yard penalty, first down.
Selwyn Jones called for the face mask. Sam, you're right.
One of the better special teams players for the Seahawks. Just reaching up. That's not an intentional one. You're reaching up to grab anything you can, and you happen to catch that face mask, let it go. Wasn't in one that was trying to hurt anybody, certainly.
Fred Thomas, who made the tackle, is the injured Seahawk on the play. While we have a chance, let's take a look at what set up the Ronnie Williams touchdown reception. That was a big play from Mirer to Joey Galloway down the sidelines.
Galloway straight up the field, didn't waste any time, just running hard. This is a play you practice even back in training camp. He gears down so that he can box out the defender, Terry McDaniel, and in doing so, they bump. The official calls a flag. Then on the next play, Rick Mirer, after the token fake, throws the touchdown. Now watch his reaction right here. This is a quarterback, very unselfish player that knows he's not going to be here next year. They've already been through so much this year with him, not only being benched, which is tough on anybody, a competitor, but then hearing the rumors of Jeff George being the new quarterback, and then Jeff George ultimately turning that offer down. A new contract given to John Freeze, a 2-year extension of $4.2 million worth. That certainly wrote everything out clear to Rick Mirer. Still playing hard these last 5 games.
Yeah, we had a frank conversation with Rick, and he said, no, I wasn't happy about the way I was taken out of the starting lineup last year in Dennis Erickson's first year, as you take a look at Harvey Williams. But you're right. I think for the first time in a long time, Sam, Rick Mirer finally feels comfortable. Last year, when he was taken out of the starting lineup, he said that he always felt that he was looking over his shoulder, getting ready to be replaced. He was forcing things, and now he says it's a much different situation. With 5 games left, I can play a little freer, a little looser down the way.
Well, you know, you can't play with somebody warming up in the bullpen all the time. You're not going to, as he put it, let it fly. You've got to let that ball fly. Take a chance every now and then, as long as it's a calculated chance.
In the meantime, John Freeze out for the season, watching from the sidelines. Play action for Hostetler on 2nd down and 9, and Hostetler will run out of bounds short of the first down. Carlton Gray, the corner, ran Haas out.
And that time on the fake to the left, the ball was faked to the left. The Hostetler rolls to the right. Mike Sinclair never found the ball. He had contain on the outside right here, but the quarterback is going to go to the right. Now watch right here. Watch the defense. See Sinclair, he's looking inside, looking inside, looking inside. Never found the football. Hostetler all the way outside, and of course he steps out of bounds for a nice gain. There's always a person in charge of contain, responsible for reverses, bootlegs. That time, Mike Sinclair, who's done a good job of coming up the field, didn't do his job on the on containment. Sam Adams leaving the field.
He was on the ground for several seconds, Sam. Now finally up under his own power.
We can pass the word along to Sam Sr.
Watching
he
in
did
Houston.
come off the ball on that one, though.
That's right. So Joe Nash, number 72, on the defensive line for Seattle on 3rd and 3 for Oakland. Flags come in. It looked like Seattle moved across. Tim Brown hauls it in, and he's inside the 20.
That wasn't the same play, but it was the same pattern that they scored on with James Jett earlier. This time it goes to Tim Brown. Looks like he might have twisted an ankle at the end of that on the top.
Offside, number 70, defense, penalty decline, first down.
So the big gain by Brown will stand on the penalty by the Seahawks, Sinclair.
Again, they caught the Oakland Raiders, caught Seattle in a man-to-man coverage. You're going to see that as the quarterback drops back, he's looking for crossing patterns, and he's looking for linebackers to disappear. See that linebacker disappear right in the middle. As soon as he sees that, it's pure man coverage down the field. That's his read.
20-yard gain by Brown stands. 3 catches for 52 yards for him. Hostetler, the pocket finally collapses. Michael McCrary, along with Sinclair, were in there. And that's just a case where Haas just needed to get rid of the football, and that enabled Seattle plenty of time to bring him down.
Well, the pass rush is going to win some of the battles. The protection really is good if the ball is thrown on time, but anytime you go to a secondary or a third receiver, then you're relying on extra effort from that offensive line. Sometimes that extra effort, even if it's made, isn't going to hold out a good defensive line like Seattle has.
Michael McCrary has been playing outstanding defense down the stretch of the season for Seattle as well. He gets the sack there. Harvey Williams with the call. And that'll bring up 3rd down and long again for Oakland. Cortez Kennedy on the stop. You mentioned how deep Seattle is with running backs. Oakland certainly has its share. They're trying to share the football as well. Harvey Williams, who signed as a free agent over from Kansas City a couple of years ago, once carries, and so does Kaufman. And there's Joe Aska, an outstanding second-year man out of Central Oklahoma, who Joe Bugle has to find some time for as well.
You saw Joe Bugle, the offensive line coach, and the running coach. He's the guy that designs all those runs.
Hostetler complete to Tim Brown. Brown trying to stretch his way for the first down. That'll be close. Another flag has been thrown.
Hostetler doing a good job of changing the count. Probably what he's doing is going on the same count for several plays in a row and then jumping out of that count and drawing the defense off sides. When the quarterback wants to draw somebody off sides, what he does is he goes quickly with 2 counts. Hut, hut. And then the next hut, he throws his voice up a little bit, and just the sound of it will stimulate the reaction. And really, the job is to watch the ball.
Offside, number 98, defense. 5-yard penalty, 3rd down.
Well, Sam Adams, the dad, probably writing that infraction down on his piece of paper back in Houston on Sam Jr.
Well, he doesn't take notes. He just remembers all these things. His dad, Sam Adams, is a guy
Number 68 is an eligible receiver. 68 is eligible.
Sam Adams knows a lot about football. He played for Prairie View and then the New England Patriots as well as the New Orleans Saints back all the way up to 1981.
Late 70s and early 80s. Derek Fenner trying to plunge ahead for the first down. Needs to get inside the 9.
Decision time on the road.
He's short.
Last week, Mike White made the decision on 4th down to go for these distances. Tim Brown coming into the game, and they're going for it on 4th down in a long yard, or almost 2 yards this time.
What do you think of this call right here, Sam?
Oh, I think in this situation, you're fine. Your team needs a little something from the coach to say, I believe you can do it.
It is a long one. They barely get the play off. Hostetler to throw. Complete at the 5-yard line to Tim Brown. So the gamble pays off.
The interesting thing there is that's the same play they used against Minnesota a week ago, the exact same play on 4th down. I'm sure Seattle practiced against that situation. The Raiders made it work anyway. Execution will win the battle of strategy every time. Token fake to try to hold people inside and then just drill the ball The receiver
68 is eligible. 68 is eligible.
Receiver just turns in, finds a hole, and stops on a 4th down play like that.
Pays off. Now the Raiders want to get in on 1st and goal from the 5. Derek Fenner. And Fenner fighting his way close to the 3-yard line. Fenner was a 10th round draft pick of the Seattle Seahawks way back in 1989. In fact, he played 32 games as a Seahawk and had a great season back in 1991 when he led the Seahawks in rushing.
I've always thought he was a running back that could be special in this league. The last couple of plays, Rick Cunningham, who's an offensive tackle, is lined up as a tight end. They've only got 2, Dudley and Glover, 2 tight ends active. So when they go to a 3 tight end set, Cunningham becomes the 3rd tight end.
2nd and goal. Hostetler to the end zone. Touchdown. And it is Rick Cunningham. And Hostetler smiling as he gets high fives of congratulations along the sidelines. Well, it was no secret. Jerry Markbright's announced his name about 3 or 4 times.
That's right. In fact, before this play is the first time he did not announce. And you see the token fake. Rick Cunningham just slides out and turns to the outside. And this is one of those deals where now all week long next week they're going to have to put up with Rick Cunningham explaining exactly how he got that quick release, made the sharp move to the outside, found the ball, tucked it in, slam dunked it in the end zone. And of course, Jeff Hostetler carrying the ball. He's going to go over now and give it to Rick Cunningham for his trophy case.
Yes, that belongs in the trophy case.
1 in a row
for Cunningham. Unrestricted free agent acquisition from the Vikings this year. A flag comes in. Will be declined as Cole Ford hammered it through.
Yeah, that looks like a tight end to me.
The point is good. Offside, number 30, defense. Penalty will be enforced. 5 yards on the kickoff. Timeout.
So Jeff Hostetler records his 17th touchdown pass of the season. And with 4:01 left in the half, the Raiders reclaim the lead. Defensive coordinator for the Seahawks, Greg McMackin. And we mentioned earlier how the Seahawks have been having a difficult time in the red zone on offense. They've also been having a difficult time on defense, stopping opponents from inside the 20. We'll show you a graphic in a moment, which illustrates that. Steve Broussard returns the kickoff for Seattle. Nice move at the 20. Still on his feet across the 25. Now he fumbles the ball, and the Raiders have it. Or are they going to call him down?
They ruled him down.
They ruled him down. It'll be interesting to take a look at this.
Let's just look at the replay to see it. I don't want to make the call either. Here's the run, the second effort. The ball is down. He is down. Good call by the officials.
That is a good call.
Right on top of it. Broussard runs like a guy that never accepts a tackle. He never concedes being tackled. Coming out of college, I always thought that this guy would be a great return guy as well as a back out of the backfield, which is exactly how Seattle is using him.
Outstanding college player at Washington State. What a ball game the Huskies and the Cougars played yesterday, with Washington winning in overtime over Washington State. Well, there is McMackin, the defensive coordinator. We promised the graphic, and here to illustrate it is Sam Weish.
Well, you see they had 35 possessions. This is going into this game right here, and they've scored 34 times out of 35, either a touchdown or a field goal, which is not very good defense inside the red zone. Now, you know, the red zone is, in my mind, it's anytime you're in field goal range. It's not necessarily the 20-yard line. It's really more like about the 30-yard line, because you've got 3 points when you get to about the 30. That's about a 47 or 48-yard field goal. But when you see graphics like that, most of the time it indicates from the 20-yard line in. But when you are talking to coaches and they say red zone, they're talking about where their field goal kicker is accurate on in, and that's usually around the 30, 32, 33-yard line.
But you know what I was most impressed with there was your arithmetic, Sam.
Yeah.
Just off the top of your head, adding up those two numbers
Add the calculator
to come up with a total. Rick Mirer on the mark. He's got Chris Warren out of the backfield. And Mike Jones makes the stop for Seattle. Clock continuing to roll, 3:35 left. Thanksgiving Day, a great NFL tradition here on NBC. And we start you off at 12 noon Eastern time. And then the game, Kansas City taking on the Detroit Lions. It is a football feast. Marcus Allen and the Chiefs take on Barry Sanders and the Lions. Thanksgiving Day starting at 12 noon Eastern time right here on NBC. Second down and 2. Mirer turns, hands off to Warren. Warren's got another first down across the 40-yard line. Mike Morton brings Warren down, and Warren beginning to rack up some yardage.
About 3 minutes to go in the half. The Seahawks are not in their full 2-minute mode right here. They've got 3 timeouts, so they've got plenty of time to move down the field, and they don't want to get in there and score too quickly and give a 2-minute situation back to the Raiders.
11 carries for 62 yards for Chris Warren. Play action by Mirer near sidelines. He wanted Brian Blades, incomplete. Albert Lewis on the coverage.
Strong safety Lorenzo Lynch blitzed that time. He actually tipped it. He was looking for a quick count from Rick Mirer, and Rick went on a little bit longer count, so he tipped it. But you can see coming from over here, you'll see 43. Here he comes. He's going to blitz. Now, quarterbacks try, if possible, always throw in the direction of the blitz. If the blitz is coming from your right, throw to your right, because you know there's no underneath help, and it's one-on-one behind you. Another ball bounced out on the field. Some guys warming up on the sideline, let one get away from him.
So the Seahawk offense regathers itself. Jerry Markbright finally begins play with a signal. 4 wide receivers for Mirer. 2:28 left. Seahawks trailing Oakland 14-10. Quick drop by Mirer. He's got Ricky Prohl. Prohl brought down at the 45-yard line. Clock continuing to roll. And the Seahawks with all 3 of their timeouts left. That should bring us maybe to the 2-minute warning, and it should.
Kevin Mawai and Pat Swilling have a little shoving match at the end right there, but it's going to kick down with 2:05 left. They're not going to get this one off before the 2-minute warning.
2-minute warning in Seattle. The Raiders,
2-minute warning.
with a big second quarter, have taken over the lead by 4. 11-1.
Right? 14, 15 seconds left to go in the game. Then the Cavaliers wins it there.
Should be a good highlight coming up at halftime on the Domino's Pizza NFL and NBC halftime report. Seahawks 3rd and 5 from the 45 with all 3 of their timeouts left. That was Mike Pritchard who tried to make a one-handed stab at the football. Carl Kidd spun him around.
The ball was thrown behind the receiver, but Rick Mirer had no chance on that one to wait on anything else happening. You see the setup. He tries to slip outside to give every intention of going up the field and then jumping back underneath. Pritchard just couldn't reach back far enough, and that's why Mirer was getting all kinds of pressure, couldn't get the ball on target.
So the Seahawks forced to punt with 1:56 left. Rick Tootin booms one. But really, it ends up going too far. He wanted to try and pin them back inside the 20, so Tootin's punt a little bit too much leg, as Oakland will come back and begin 1st and 10 at the 20 with 1:45 remaining in the opening half. Oakland with a 14-10 lead. Seattle with a 21-yard field goal in the first quarter to take a 3-0 lead. James Jett, 17-yard touchdown catch from Jeff Hostetler to make it 7-3. Seattle came back as Mirer hit Ronnie Williams for a score to make it 10-7, and then Rick Cunningham with a surprising touchdown catch for Oakland, which brings us to the 14-10 score as the Raiders try to snap a dismal 3-game losing streak.
They certainly haven't let up, and this is not what Seattle wanted to do. They've left them 1:45 and 2 timeouts for Raiders.
Hostetler goes to work, first finding James Jett. Jett brought down quickly at the 25-yard line by Corey Harris. The Raiders burn one of their timeouts and stops the clock with 1:37.
I think this is a flag. I don't believe this is a timeout. It's a personal foul. Looked like he was signaling timeout, but it's a personal foul signal.
Personal foul, illegal chop block, number 66, offense. Half the distance to the goal, first down.
Kevin Gogan.
And now the strategy changes a little bit. Now the Seattle Seahawks have number 66 right here. Let's see. The chop block, meaning that he sets up and then comes back. Engaged. You see that as long as a defender is engaged by one man, he can't be hit low by another, and that's what Kevin Gogan did.
6 penalties, 48 yards for the Raiders. First and 20. Draw. Kaufman. Dragged down across the 20-yard line by Carlton Gray.
Good call. They're in a 2-minute situation. Pass rush by the Seattle Seahawks.
Rusty Tillman with his arm around Mike White.
Rusty Tillman called a fake punt earlier in the ball game. Maybe discussing whether they'd want to do it again here with maybe seconds to go in the half if it comes to that. Rusty Tillman, really the guru of special teams coaches around the league for years and years, was a special teams coach here in Seattle for about 16 years and thought of as one of the best.
Second down and 8, under a minute left. Long count by Hostetler. Napoleon Kaufman again right side, turning the corner upfield across the 25. Jay Bellamy on the stop, and the clock is stopped with 44 seconds remaining. Timeout on the field. We'll be right back with the Raiders nursing a 14-10 lead as we approach the end of the first. Seattle trailing Oakland 14-10. If the Seahawks had won last week's game, it would have been their first 4-game winning streak in 10 seasons. Instead, it ended in a 17-16 loss to the Detroit Lions. Rick Meyer played the fourth quarter of that game, did a pretty good job in relief of John Freese, but a tough loss for Dennis Erickson as the Seahawks, with a win, would have pulled to above 500 for the first time in Dennis Erickson's tenure here in Seattle. Third down and 3. Raiders hand it off once again, and this is Kaufman. Kaufman for the first down up across the 40-yard line. Raiders with 2 timeouts left. 36
Second
seconds
charge
left.
timeout, Oakland. Second charge, 30-second timeout.
And now they have 1 timeout left as they burn another one off. And tonight, Dateline. Each year, thousands of Americans are denied credit because of negative items on their credit report.
You see, the loophole there is if you miss one payment. I have figured out how you do that. You miss a series of payments, and you're in a lot less trouble.
A series of payment is the important thing to keep in mind.
The strategy here that the Raiders, they stayed on the ground after they had the backed up penalty. They stayed on the ground, so they ate up the clock in case they didn't get out of that hole. But when they make the first down, they start calling their timeouts. Now they've got 2 timeouts left. The Seahawks have 2 timeouts left. Now they'll be up and put the ball up in the air again.
Kaufman on this drive, 3 carries for 31 yards. He's got 56 yards in the ball game. Just gets rid of it, and James Jett can't hang on to it. Second down and 10. Jay Bellamy on the coverage of Jett. Clock stops, 33 seconds.
Joe Nash making the hit on Hostetler just as he let it go. Sets up and steps forward. This is very important. It's a technique that quarterbacks have to do. They give the rush a landmark. Everybody's rushing to there, and then step up into the pocket where you've got a view up the field. But Joe Nash gets a hand on Hostetler, and even though that's certainly a legal tackle and there's not a hard one, and by itself there's not much to it, over and over the course of the ball game, course of the season, those hits add up.
Joe Nash thought he'd be out of football this year. It's Glenn Montgomery out for the season for Seattle up front, and he came back. There's a fumble stripped out of the hands of Hostetler, and it's blown dead at the 27-yard line. toss appeared to have recovered it, but Sam Adams forced the fumble.
Timeout, Seattle. This is a 30-second timeout.
You'll notice after this fumble occurs, quarterback sets up in the pocket. Ball is stripped loose by Sam Adams. Now watch Sam Adams grab him. Hold him, hold him, hold him. That's not holding. That's okay as long as you're both making an effort to go towards the football. Quarterback had the ball back, ready to release the ball. You can see Sam Adams grabbing the jersey of Jeff Hostetler, trying to prevent him from getting there. That's a legal play as long as you're both in a scramble for the ball.
So when Sam Jr. gets on the phone at the end of this game, and that's the first thing he does is call his dad in Houston, that'll be one of the bright spots that Dad brings up.
It is. He says he's in the car, calls into the car phone. They spend however long it takes to critique the game. Sam Sr. says he doesn't take a note. Sam Jr. doesn't believe it. He says he can't remember that much information without writing it down somewhere.
He says, son, you don't get off the ball quite quick enough. That's one of his biggest criticisms of Jr. But he got off the ball very quickly there with 26 seconds left. Derek Fenner hurdling a Seahawk. A flag comes into the backfield. Another one comes in late. And it's taken about a half an hour to play the last 2 minutes and change of this half.
We're also seeing the tempers and the rivalry starting to surface again between these two football teams, and it shows up in those kind of penalties just after the whistle.
Seahawks and Raiders exchanged a couple of blowouts last season. The Raiders were what they called embarrassed here last season, losing 44-10. But Joe Nash will be the first to tell you that it has lost a little bit of its spark, a little bit of its intensity, just by the mere fact that both teams are reeling a little bit. Holding call against Oakland. Personal foul.
Well, it'll cost them 15 yards. Ultimately, they'll take the biggest penalty, and that'll be the personal foul.
Mike White began last year at 8-2, finished last season at 0-6, and as we...
Holding, number 76 offense, penalty is declined. Personal foul. Personal foul, unnecessary roughness on number 75 offense. That is also declined, 4th down.
So the Raider penalties continue to add up, frustrating White even further.
Pat Harlow, after the play is over with, coming in and hitting Selwyn Jones. The ruling was that the whistle had blown. There was time enough for everybody to gear down and not to deliver a blow like that. What I see is a second effort play by Pat Harlow trying to finish off the play, something that coaches preach.
Well, that is Billy Joe Hobart back to punt, or Willie. Billy Joe Hobart, the backup quarterback, sending this punt angling to the left side. So maybe Oakland just trying to confuse Seattle there and give them something to think about. Rusty Tillman.
Well, I'll tell you what could be happening here, and I wouldn't put anything past Rusty Tillman. He may be setting up something for the second half. Now you've got your quarterback in there as a punter. He punts the ball.
Well, Gossett has left the field. We don't know if he's injured. We might have gotten hurt on the
plan, though.
You never know, right?
He may have gotten hurt on the fake, but he also, I wouldn't put it past setting up, orchestrating the whole thing, setting the whole thing up so that the quarterback has to go in there and punt. And then in the second half, when he lines up, you're not quite looking for the fake as much.
So this whole thing just could be a setup. Gossett leaving the field.
It could be a frame-up. Getting set up. Be careful.
For a sting later on in the second half, maybe. 14 seconds left. And the Seahawks probably just happy to run this first half out. Steve Broussard gets the carry. And that should be the final play of the first half. It'll be Mike White and the Oakland Raiders who will take a 14-10 lead over Dennis Erickson and the Seahawks as we send you to New York and the Domino's Pizza NFL on NBC Halftime Report.
This is the Domino's Pizza NFL on NBC Halftime Report, brought to you by Domino's Pizza. For hot and wow, call Domino's. Now.
And welcome back to our studios in New York, everyone. Along with Joe Gibbs, Mike Ditka, and Chris Collinsworth, I'm Greg Gumbel. The scores and highlights, starting at the game that you are watching. The Raiders are leading the Seattle Seahawks by a score of 14-10 at halftime. The Raiders, losers of 3 straight. If there is ever a game that they needed in Oakland. It's this one.
Yeah, and also Mike White needs this game. Let's face it, there's going to be a lot of pressure on him. Joe Bugle sitting there in the wings last week at that game, 41,000, their smallest crowd since 1968. Very important game for Mike White here.
All right, at the Meadowlands, the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants, 13-3 Giants in the third. 13-3 Giants in the third. What's going on?
Who would have thunk it?
Well, if you want to get yourself in trouble, turn the ball over. Good football teams, it doesn't matter how good you are, you turn it over. They have 2 turnovers that have led to 10 points. And the second thing with Dallas, when they don't get Emmett going, it looks like the Giants right now are doing a fantastic job on the run, and basically 9 carries for 20 yards. They're not rushing, turn the ball over. That is a recipe for a loss.
Well, you look at the last about 8 games the Giants have played. Really, they've been in the game. They played the one bad game against Arizona where they gave up a lot of points. Their defense, Mike Nolan's done a great job with them all year. They're a very aggressive defense. I think they're getting the most out of their talent of any team in the league right now.
All right, Mike, one other game. The Philadelphia Eagles trying to snap a 2-game losing streak in the desert. The Cardinals lead it at halftime, 13-10. We'll bring you scores and highlights of the early games right after a word from the NFL and these messages from your local station.
NFL on NBC Halftime Report, brought to you by Domino's Pizza. For hot and wow, call Domino's. Now.
Welcome back, everyone. Let's get right to the scores and highlights of the early games, beginning with a thriller in Minnesota. The Broncos go to 11-1 with a last-second win over the Vikings. Injured Warren Moon missing his 3rd straight game. The Vikings trying to stay in the playoff hunt. 10-7 Vikes just before halftime. John Elway to Terrell Davis. 1-yard touchdown. Davis' 2nd TD of the game, his 5th in the last 2 weeks. 14-10 Denver in the 3rd. Brad Johnson, 2 TD passes, including this one to Chris Carter. What a catch to stay inbounds. Vikings lead 17-14. Under a minute to play. Another 4th quarter comeback for Elway. His pass is batted into the air. A couple of Vikings go for it, but Ed McCaffrey grabs it for the 5-yard touchdown. Take another look. It is tipped first by Harlan Barnett. Barnett and Orlando Thomas bat it again. McCaffrey moves in for the touchdown. The final, 21-17. The Broncos have won 8 straight games. They are 11-1 on the year. And Mike, you'd rather be lucky than good.
Well, I think they are lucky in that instance, but I tell you what, there's great balance to what they're doing right now. They rushed the ball fairly successfully in the football game. Elway was 27 of 36, 334, 2 touchdowns. But he used 6 receivers. McCaffrey has 6 catches for 83 yards, and he's turned into a big play guy for these guys. And all he's doing is using a little dink-dunk stuff underneath. But that was a big play.
Does that still count as a 4th quarter comeback? When you're going to tip it around, bat it around, that all still counts? I guess it still counts. You know, the one problem, though, that Denver still has right now is the fact that their offensive line is getting banged up. Mark Schlereth was out with a knee injury. Gary Zimmerman's got the problem with his shoulder. So if there's one problem now for the Denver Broncos, it's keeping that offensive line healthy.
Well, that's a tough loss for the Vikings, too. They've now lost 5 of their last 6. They go to 6-6 on the year. Look at what happened in Kansas City today. The Chargers went in, kept their playoff hopes up, 28-14. Chilly Kansas City. Bobby Ross's Chargers needing a win. San Diego capped a 98-yard drive in the 2nd quarter. 4-yard run by Leonard Russell. San Diego led 14-0. Stan Humphries connected on a pair of TD passes to Tony Martin. This 10-yarder puts the Chargers up 21-0 at halftime. Martin's 13 TD receptions lead the NFL. Meanwhile, tough day for Steve Bono. Picked off twice by Rodney Harrison and then was benched in favor of backup Rich Gannon. He threw 2 touchdown passes, but it wasn't enough. The Chargers win by a score of 28-14. Chiefs coach Marty Schottenheimer says after the game there is no quarterback controversy, but he hasn't decided yet who will start for Kansas City when the Chiefs meet the Lions here on NBC Thanksgiving Day. Do you call that a controversy, Joe?
I said things like that several times. I said, I don't care what that video says. I didn't say it. He said it. I think there is a controversy. Let me say this. This game wasn't this close. Hey, it was 28-0, and it wasn't all Bono. Gannon was productive in the second half. So there's probably a controversy, but I'm going to tell you, their defense never showed up either. It kind of amazes me. They had everything on the line for this one. San Diego looked awful the week before. You feel like they're going to play great at home.
Bobby Ross did a great job of getting these guys back. After the loss to Tampa Bay, they could have been a demoralized football team. He brought them in here, and I mean, really, you know, and what Joe said is true. This wasn't even close. I mean, it was an old-fashioned butt-whipping, totally butt-whipping.
Chargers are 6-6. They have won 3 of their last 4 games. In Washington, the Redskins fell in overtime to the 49ers, 19-16. Steve Young back in the starting lineup. 2 concussions over the last 4 weeks. All field goals until Gus Frerotte hit Jamie Asher over the middle. He dives in for the 20-yard 60-yard touchdown, 16-9 Redskins. Late in the fourth quarter, William Floyd will cap a 73-yard scoring drive by the Niners with a 1-yard run. They go to overtime tied at 16. 49ers won the coin toss, marched to the Redskin 21. Jeff Wilkins, a 38-yard field goal to win it. The 49ers have won 4 of their last 5 games. They improved to 9-3, 19-16 over Washington. In Foxborough, the Patriots back in form, 27-13 over Indianapolis. Bill Parcells looking for a rebound effort after the butt whipping from Denver. This week's game plan, Curtis Martin. 9 carries on the opening drive. He set up the Patriots field goal, 25 carries in the first half all told. Drew Bledsoe, then Deshaun Jefferson, 13 yards and a touchdown. New England extends to a 10-0 lead. 17-3 in the third. Injury woes mounted for the Colts. Jim Harbaugh hit on his left knee by Willie Clay. He left with a sprained medial collateral ligament. 20-6 in the fourth. Martin gets into the end zone on his 31st carry. 12-yard run increased the Patriots lead to 27-6. Martin, 35 carries, 141 yards, and a touchdown, and those Patriots are back, Chris.
And that was a Bill Parcells kind of a football game. Just go out and play the physical, hand the ball off. I think he had 18 carries in the first quarter of that game. Bill Parcells clearly wanted to make a statement that his team needed to be more physical.
Colts are 6-6. They've lost 5 of 6. The Patriots have won 5 of 6, and they improved to 8-4. In Buffalo, the Bills beat the Jets today, 35-10. Thurman Thomas left this game early, first quarter. A bruise to the left leg. 7-3 Buffalo in the second. After Buffalo's second interception of Frank Reich, Jim Kelly finds Andre Reed for second touchdown. 22-yarder gives the Bills a 14-3 lead. 21 seconds left in halftime. Before half, Kelly finds Steve Tasker. 21-3 Bills, but Kelly hit on the play by Hugh Douglas, injured his hamstring. He did not return. 28-10 in the fourth. Bills' first-round pick Eric Moles takes the kickoff, dodges some early traffic, and then the speed kicks in. 97-yard touchdown return, the first kickoff return for a touchdown by the Bills since 1991. The Bills win it by a score of 35-10. The Jets have now lost 15 of their last 16 games. They are 1-11 on the year. The Bills have won 4 in a row. They improve to 9-3. In Houston, the Oilers fall to the Carolina Panthers, 31-6, the final score. Panthers improve to 8-4. The Oilers have lost 4 of 5. In Chicago, the Bears stomped on the Detroit Lions, 31-14. Both these teams now are 5-7. In Baltimore, they went to overtime. Jacksonville field goal wins it, 28-25 over the Ravens. The Ravens are 4-8. The Jaguars are 5-7. In Cincinnati, the Bengals continue to improve under Bruce Coslett, a 10-point win over the Falcons. Bengals have won 4 out of 5, and they're 5-7 on the year. And in Tampa, the Bucs have won 3 in a row. They beat the New Orleans Saints 13-7. We'll send you back to Seattle for the second half of the action in just a moment.
Dan Hicks with Sam Weish at halftime in Seattle. The Oakland Raiders with a 14-10 lead over the Seattle Seahawks. Each team with a glimmer of hope left for the playoffs, but nevertheless a very important game to keep the playoff hopes alive. Seahawks at 5-6. And the Raiders at 4-7 trying to snap a 3-game losing streak. As you take a look at the Coors Light halftime stats, and Sam, those will indicate that it's a fairly close ball game.
Well, you can't get much more even than that in almost every category. And as I mentioned to you at halftime, the next team to score a touchdown is going to win this game. So that's even, right?
That's the prediction.
Joe Nash pointed out that there's not bad blood between these teams, but mutual respect. And what we're seeing right now is mutual respect to whip the other guy.
And after a very slow-moving final few minutes to the first half.
The game clock has not been set to 15 minutes. There's no kickoff.
Jerry
Please set the game clock to 15 minutes.
Tells us that there it is. The game clock had zeros across, so we'll kick it off again.
Not a good way to start the second half if you're the technician in charge of the game clock, huh?
Jerry saying thank you. 15 minutes.
Thank you very much.
And now look at the zeros on the scoreboard.
Oh, me.
Raiders and Seahawks.
This is really upsetting me. I don't know about you, but
Jerry Markbright.
I don't think I can go on, Dan.
A frown on his face. Are you leaving the booth?
I'm leaving now.
Well, you know what your partner...
Look at Jerry. Is he upset?
Your partner, Marv Albert, told me that I was the only person that could save you.
Yeah, well, I'm beyond being saved. I can tell you that. I knew that myself.
At this late juncture in the season. in your rookie season here at NBC. So
I really don't appreciate Marv passing that information on to you. And
you don't.
I like even less the fact you passed it on to the rest of the country. So, life goes on.
Well, Marv Albert, just about sometime next week, will be thawing out from his trip to Minnesota.
He deserves every inch of thaw.
Broncos with that big win over the Vikings today. And now we begin the second half. Napoleon Kaufman taking in the Peterson kick from the 7. That was a nice Seattle special teams play by Fred Thomas, who's been on a couple today. Injured himself a little bit as he tripped up Kaufman. Let's take a look at the quarterback comparison, and just like the team stats, the quarterback comparison very close as well between Hostetler, who has a couple of touchdown passes, and Rick Meyer. Meyer has the 1 turnover for Seattle after he fumbled it. But Rick Meyer trying to show the rest of the NFL down the stretch of the season here that he's a starting quarterback somewhere. As you take a look at plays on first down for Oakland, just over a yard average. They pitch here to Kaufman. He gets much more than a yard, close to the 30-yard line. So pretty good gain by Kaufman, brought down by Dean Wells.
Kevin Gogan was the pulling guard out in front of that one. Just a pitch to the right, and that'll help that 1.3 average on first down a little bit. The Raiders go into the no huddle as they start the second half to add a little juice to that offense.
Mike White told us that would be on the back burner because he was a little unsure of it on the road. But there's not much noise, as you can tell here in the dome. Big gain again for Kaufman. So 2 nice gains for Kaufman to begin the second half.
I think coaches are concerned, quarterbacks are concerned that on the road the crowd can become a factor and keep you out of the no huddle. But I don't buy that. I think you can do it. Just watch the left side. You see the guard's going to pull around right here. Just make contact enough for speed to get outside. Speed at the backfield is all you need on a quick play like that outside.
Kaufman replaced in the backfield now by Harvey Williams, who's getting some last-second instructions from Hostetler, who appears to be audibilizing at the line of scrimmage. And another pitch to Williams, left side. The Raiders just challenging the Seahawks this time, but Seattle there to meet them up front. Number 99, Michael McCrary, there to stop Harvey Williams.
And Steve Wisniewski was the pulling guard on that occasion. And what happens there is you go to the well one time too many. You just can't run the same play. I used to have a rule. I used to tell the coaches upstairs, if I ever repeat a call, I want you to come down and kick me in the somewhere. And make sure I don't do that. Because the defense is just thinking about it. It's in the front of their mind. It just happened to them.
Lost a yard there, so Hostetler, his first pass of the second half, across the middle, complete into Seattle territory, and it is Ricky Dudley, the tight end from Ohio State. Dudley drafted number 1, 9th overall in an attempt by Al Davis and the Raiders to revive that tight end tradition.
And you get the feeling that Jeff Hostetler isn't 100% sure. Here's Dudley going to turn right inside. Isn't 100% sure that Dudley is ready yet. Hadn't got everything mastered, but he will.
Gain of 12 by Dudley. Another sweep to the right. Here comes Harvey Williams. Williams picks up some good positive yardage, 4 or 5 yards down to the Seattle 43. Dean Wells again makes the stop. The middle linebacker for Seattle. He was on the field just 3 plays last week because the Lions used a 3 wide receiver set, but he's one of 2 Seattle linebackers who will undergo surgery at the end of the season. Dean Wells has a partially dislocated shoulder and also faces wrist surgery because of torn ligaments. And another sweep. Napoleon Kaufman looking for the first down. He'll be short. This has just been sweep city for Oakland here in the beginning of the second half, Sam.
And that's what I just talked about a moment ago that I asked my coaches never let me do, is call the same play. That was the exact same play. Gogan and Kennedy both pull to the right side on the quick toss. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to beat the contain. This is Joe Bugle, the offensive line coach, former head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. I think one of the finest coaches in the league. This guy knows what he's doing. He's certainly capable of being a head coach again if an owner is looking. But he's a guy that knows and understands defenses and can attack them.
On third down, a huge average, nearly 12 yards for Oakland. Timeout on the field called by the Raiders, their first of the second half. Mike White and his team on the move. Impressive opening drive of this second half for the Raiders, Sam.
Paul Brown used to say that the first drive on offense and defense in the second half is the most important drive of the ball game because the only score they keep is the score at the end of that second half.
Third and short, a little longer than a yard. Seahawks showing blitz. Haas maybe changing the play at the line of scrimmage, just gets the play off. And he goes near side to Tim Brown for the first down.
And the blitz came from the offensive right side, the defensive left side. Hostetler audible and immediately looked and threw the ball to the right side. Same principle we talked about earlier in the game. Always throw the ball in the direction of the blitz because that's where you know the one-on-one coverage is. Brown makes a straight up the field, turns the hips of the defensive back and just breaks it out on a timing quick out.
Fifth catch of the game for Brown. He's up to 63 yards. And the Raiders with a first down. 11:09 left in the third quarter. They lead at 14-10. They keep it on the ground. This time on first down, Harvey Williams trying to turn the corner upfield. Terry Wooden makes the stop.
The Raiders got away with one that time. Pat Harlow moved ahead of the snap just an instant, but no whistle was blown. Ball running away from him. His job was to cut off the backside. And when you're cutting off the backside, you want to get off as quick as you can because you've got to get up the field, not just down the line, but you've got to get down the line and up the field to get to that linebacker to cut him off.
There's Pat Harlow, former #1 pick. So many former #1 picks choose Oakland as a haven after changing teams. Harlow at left tackle in for the injured Robert Jenkins. On second down, Hostetler throws it over the middle of the field over Ricky Dudley. And that ball was ripe for being picked off.
Well, he threw it in the right direction. They had two safeties deep. A two-deep safety means that the vulnerable spot is down the middle. And you can see Hostetler's looking straight down the middle. He just overthrows it, but there's the hole. There's nobody here. Reaction as after the ball is thrown by the corners. But he knows that when he lets that thing go, what you have to do, though, is you've got to take a little something off of it so it drops over the linebackers but doesn't carry too far downfield.
Oakland pretty good third down conversions. They need 8 here. Here come the Seahawks blitz. Incomplete. Ricky Dudley couldn't hang on. And you mentioned how Hostetler was saying that the rookie out of Ohio State isn't quite ready. That's been the problem. There's been some drop passes by Dudley, who's a huge physical specimen at 6'6", 250.
Here you see Dudley right here. He's just going to break to the outside. And Jeff Hostetler wasn't really criticizing him. You could just kind of read between the lines as he talked about Ricky Dudley that this is one of the guys that's not a clutch receiver in his mind just yet. But remember, he's a rookie, first time in the National Football League. And Gossett is going to hold.
Cole Ford in to attempt a field goal. They'll spot it at the 37, so a 47-yard attempt by Ford. It has enough leg, and it is good. So Cole Ford, who has been criticized this year after missing some close field goals and losses, connects to extend the Raider lead. Well, that has to be a confidence builder for Cole Ford. Career-long 47-yard field goal for the second-year kicker out of USC, who had taken some heat earlier this year, missing short field goals and overtime losses for the Raiders. But he's extended the Raider lead to 17-10 as Steve Broussard begins from the 8, cuts across the left portion of the field, and does not get it back to the 20-yard line. He is brought down at the 17-yard line by Kenny Shedd.
The ball was kicked to the Seattle right side, and they had the return set up to the left side, just taking too long to get back to the left, and we've got a Seattle Seahawk down on the turf.
That is T.J. Cunningham, the 6th-round pick out of Colorado, rookie, who plays special teams for the Seahawks.
You know, when you set up a return either left or right as opposed to a wedge right up the middle, you're playing the percentages and you're going off of how many times the ball lands on a spot drill. They put a little dot every time the ball lands over the study of 3 or 4 games and over the course of this ball game. But apparently they guessed wrong because they thought it was going to be a return left.
Injury timeout in the third quarter. We'll be right back. Well, it's been a disappointing season for the Seattle Seahawks. Not just getting off to the slow start, but the unsure future of where they will end up playing. It's a very confusing political situation, but basically Paul Allen, the prospective new owner, wants 3 options. 3 options include a renovated Kingdome. That's a possibility of a new home for the Seahawks. Also a renovated Husky Stadium, a very expensive proposition, and also on these nice sketches, courtesy of HOK, is a new open-air stadium. But Paul Allen, the perhaps new owner who will take over the ownership from Ken Berry, that still has to be decided. But basically, he wants to get the lease down from 10 years to 3 years, Paul Allen does, and get an agreement reached on a better facility, which takes into account the options of the stadiums we just have shown you. What's that decision made by mid-December? So through this season, as Chris Warren gets to carry, Sam, these players have had to play with that presence over the season, as you take a look at T.J. Cunningham being worked on underneath.
And I can tell you from experience in Tampa, Florida, where a stadium issue occupied a lot of time with our players, that it does take away. And Dennis Erickson, you know, is being very, taking the high road on all of this, being very diplomatic, but he says, you know, it affects me. It has to affect the players. I think about those things. And we talked to players that had just bought a home or were thinking about it, and they didn't know what to do because of the uncertainty.
2nd and 5 for Rick Meyer. Again, handing off to Chris Warren, and even more amazing is the fact that Lamar Smith has yet to carry the football once in this game. Chris Warren has been running pretty effectively, but there is Lamar Smith, who turns in the best performance ever for a Seattle runner in his first career start last week. 148 yards, 33 carries, and he sits on the sideline for maybe the entire game.
Well, I'll tell you, the problem they have is you look at the numbers coming into this particular ball game right there. The problem they have is that they've got a player in Lamar Smith that's going to be highly sought after by a lot of teams in free agency.
3rd down and 3. Broussard is the back. Meyer going long, far side. He wanted Joey Galloway, but Galloway double covered there. A flag is on the play. Terry McDaniel was running down the sidelines with Galloway.
And this was going to be easy to call because McDaniel just reached out and hooked Galloway to make sure he couldn't go by. Galloway on a little stop and go.
Pass interference, number 36, defense. Automatic first down.
2nd time that the All-Pro has been called for pass interference on Galloway this game. You might remember the previous one was a 40-yard hookup, which led to a touchdown for Seattle, and McDaniel definitely respecting Galloway's speed as well.
Well, the first one was one of those that's unavoidable. This one was one to prevent a possible touchdown, and maybe that's unavoidable too. Once you think you got beat, just give him the short yardage, not the touchdown.
So Seattle with a first down across the 40-yard line. And Warren again turns it up around the right side. And the guy that prevented him from perhaps scoring was Lorenzo Lynch. Warren had turned it upfield, and Lorenzo Lynch stepped in front and prevented Warren from perhaps going the distance.
You know, Chris Warren doesn't look like he's going full speed. He's such a smooth, gliding kind of a runner. You're going to see him go off to the right side right here. Now just the tackle blocks down, the guard comes around, and then Warren bounces it outside because that's where the hole is, not because that's where it was designed to go. Runs with his eyes open, but very smooth, very fluid runner.
Warren up to 85 yards. He takes a break. Brian Blades is in the offensive set for Meyer, lofting it up. And that ball almost picked off, intended for Galloway, and on the coverage was James Trapp, and Trapp very slow in getting up.
Galloway and Trapp get a little tangled up with their feet. This is really a good job by the receiver. Galloway knows he's not going to get it, so he's going to make sure the defender doesn't. Straight outside release and straight up the field. No deceptiveness here. It's going to be a sprint, but Galloway knows that he didn't box out the defender. The defender boxed him out, James Trapp, so he just knocks the ball away. But sometimes you just fall hard. You don't fall, particularly wrong. You just hit hard. You don't know whether you're hurt for the moment. You got to wait and see.
James Trapp still trying to shake off the injury. Gives us a chance to remind you that tonight Super Bowl championships.
Yes, and one of the winningest franchises in sports, as they will point out quite quickly to you as you talk to their front office team.
Second down and 10 for Seattle. Ball at the 44-yard line. Lamar Smith has entered the game and picks up his first carry midway through the third quarter. So perhaps Seattle listening to us in the booth, Sam, lamenting the fact that Lamar had not carried the football. He finally gets in and out quickly.
Apparently they, it's a third down, and Steve Broussard comes in on third down. That's a third down back. But I believe that was just to giving a little bit of a break right there to Chris Warren. You see him with his helmet off breathing. Whenever you see a player breathing through his mouth, you know he's tired. If you can't breathe through the nose, you can't suck in enough air. He's winning.
Long third down attempt here for Meyer. Swings it out near side to Broussard. Broussard very close to the first down, and he limps out off the sidelines.
And that's a hamstring pull. When a player grabs that part of the back of his leg right there, that's not a bruise or anything, but the muscle has popped. I'll tell you what, Rick Meyer, with this performance today, and if he continues to play this way the rest of the season, is going to have a lot of suitors around the league. And there are a lot of teams that are interested in him, or certainly interested in acquiring a quarterback, and would be interested in him. He's throwing the ball with authority, and as he mentioned to us yesterday, he's letting it fly. He's not looking over his shoulder to see if the next miscue is a problem and yanks him from the game.
Well, the last start that Rick Meyer made, we mentioned at the top of the show, September 29th, and it was a terrible showing by Rick. He threw 4 interceptions in the 31-10 loss to Green Bay, and that was it. And it was for the very next Monday that the decision was made to go to John Freeze. Freeze went 4-1 before the loss last week to fall to 4-2, but this is an opportunity for Rick Meyer as you take a look at, I guess, is John listening to the play calls in the helmet there?
Yeah, that's John Freeze's helmet. He's not in uniform, but he can take his helmet out there so that he can listen.
We have an injury timeout.
He can listen to the play call. They've got an injury timeout, which is not charged to either team. And Broussard is on the Raider bench. So as long as he is on the wrong side of the field, play cannot continue.
Well, he's going to need help getting somewhere else.
Yeah, well, he might be able to limp with a little help rather than just carry him like that rather than have to bring out a cart or something. You know, getting back to Rick Meyer, when he came out of Notre Dame, I went up there and I worked him out, and I took him into the classroom, and for 1 hour I grilled him on the board about offense and defense. Have not ever had a session like that with a player and had a better response from the player. He knows his football. He knew it coming out of college. Anytime you've got a father who's a coach, you get a lot of extra learning along the way.
First and 10 for Seattle at the 33. Meyer trying to bring the Seahawks back. They trail at 17-10. Across the middle, complete to Brian Blades. What he does so well across the middle, picks up the Seahawk first down.
Albert Lewis was there to tag him down. Albert Lewis has been covering Brian Blades all day long. Wherever he goes, left side or right side, he covers him. And the ball is going to come in from the right side over here, just a turn-in pattern. Blades across the middle. You can see Albert Lewis trailing in behind him, and they've assigned Albert Lewis to cover him one-on-one all day long.
Gain of 15 for Blades. Meyer is 9 of 17 as Broussard gets carted off the field. Meyer rolling right, pump fakes once and just runs it out of bounds. Albert Lewis forces him out, but right, Rick Meyer, a very productive game. The only turnover came when he did fumble the football earlier in the first half, but he has played pretty good football most of this game, including picking up a better than 10-yard average per carry.
He has a little something subtle right there. That was along the same sideline that the penalty was thrown in the first quarter. Albert Lewis kind of let up. Rick Meyer let up. But if Rick Meyer had darted up the field to try to make another yard or two, it would have been to the advantage of the offense.
Seahawks on the march. Second down and 7. Meyer slings it out, complete at the 11-yard line once again. Brian Blades. Pumping up the crowd.
Now let me tell you, that's a fine catch by Blades, but that's also a quarterback that is, quote, letting it fly. He just ripped that thing in there. That was a tight throw right in between tight coverage. Token fake, has to turn his hips, get himself set, and just throw it hard, right in there quick. Ball can't stay in the air very long on a throw like that.
Good job by Brian Blades. Seen so many of his catches over the year in tough traffic. Takes a big hit, hauls it in. Remember, this guy back for the first time in 3 weeks with a separated shoulder he's been recovering from. 3rd down and 3. Down goes number 3, Meyer, in the hands of Chester McLaughlin. McLaughlin with another sack. His 2nd of the game, 6th on the season.
You know, in talking to Chester as we watch him make this play, he said yesterday that talking about the mystique of the Raiders is, you know, what has happened in the past is the past. We've got to go out and make our own mystique, and we've got to go out there and do it on the field, and we've got to do it now. That's all that counts.
So a field goal attempt now by Todd Peterson, spotted at the 22, 32-yard attempt. And Peterson nails it through. Peterson good from 21 in the first quarter, 32 here in the 3rd quarter, and the Seahawks have moved to within 4 with 4:55 left in the 3rd. 3rd quarter in Seattle. Dan Hicks with Sam Weish. The Oakland Raiders on top 17-13. Todd Peterson with a 32-yard field goal to bring the Seahawks within 4. Napoleon Kaufman waiting back for the Peterson kick. Instead, this will be Carl Kidd from the 7-yard line. And Carl Kidd fumbles the football. Seahawks say they have it. Officials say otherwise. Jason Kyle applied the hit on Carl Kidd, who has turned into a special team star and has been so enthusiastic with his role. When the Raiders needed a kickoff returner, he raised his hand and said, "I'll get back there." But he nearly cost the Raiders a turnover there.
Coming straight up the middle. He's not going to do anything wrong here, except the Seattle Seahawks are doing things right. They're trying to either get a helmet or a hand on that ball. That ball actually lays on the field of play a long time. Apparently just bounces out of bounds prior to the possession for recovery. You've got to have possession before it counts.
From the 24. Hostetler drills it into James Jett. James Jett on the move. If he gets loose, he becomes very dangerous, but Seattle finally hems him in at the 40-yard line. Robert Blackman brings him down.
Again, throwing against his own defense. Jett turns in. One of the things I hate to see a receiver do, though, is run sideways like that. You should always turn and go straight up the field for your first step or two, and then you can go left or right. But when you go sideways like that, sometimes you keep bowing back and losing yards.
Blazing speed. We mentioned Jett beating his teammate, defending champion James Trapp in the NFL's fastest man competition. Picks up the first down on a gain of 16. Hostetler to the air, wanted Jett again. It's incomplete this time. Carlton Gray on the coverage.
Same turn-in pattern by Jett, different drop by Hostetler. This time he rolls to the right. And when you're rolling, throwing to a receiver that is turning in, therefore going right to left, now Hostetler's going to come this way, but the receiver's going to be turning in this way. And when you get that action right there, the moving target is really tough to hit because the ball actually moves in flight. An old veteran like Jeff Hostetler knows and understands the principles.
And the draw to Harvey Williams. Williams maybe a yard or two, and that is it. And that brings up 3rd down for the Raiders. Joe Nash, a longtime veteran, in his 214th game, makes the stop.
Along with Cortez Kennedy and Joe Nash, I tell you, that defensive front right there is strong. They're big, they've got leverage, they stay low, they bend at the waist, or at the knees rather than at the waist, which gives you that leverage. Hard to run right up the middle against this team.
That Seahawks front line digging in on 3rd and 8. Hostetler with some time, slings it out. Nice catch made by Tim Brown for the first down. He's at the Seattle 45. Corey Harris stopped him, but an excellent reception by the All-Pro Tim Brown.
That's a team completion because the protection held up long enough for things to develop. See, it's a straight drop back pack. There's the pocket form. And then the quarterback has to move a little bit to his right to find the throwing lane, but there was time for him to go to the second. He's looking down the field, and then he has to come back. Right there at the end of something else a little subtle. You watch number 20, Jay Bellamy, pull up. There's been so many calls against, and not only calls, but fines against people hitting the
comes in. That was Ricky Dudley floating down the sideline, the big tight end, as Hostetler was pressured once again by Joe Nash. Will once again here from Jerry Markbright. Against Seattle, defensive holding. Now he wants a number 45.
Holding, number 55. Defense. 5-yard penalty. Automatic first down.
That comes on the former Raider, Winston Moss.
Winston Moss is the linebacker that stays in the game all the time. He stays in when they bring in a nickel defense, nickel meaning 5 defensive backs, or a dime defense meaning 6 defensive backs. But there's still one linebacker left, and that's always Winston Moss.
And like Dean Wells, Winston Moss faces surgery at the end of the season. He's playing with a torn right tricep, which he suffered in the first play of the game last week. First and 10 for the Raiders via the penalty. Napoleon Kaufman, left side, a lot of room. And rushed out of bounds at the 34 by Corey Harris. Clock continuing to, well, it's stopped now at 2:42.
You know, the only guy that makes that kind of a run better than Napoleon Kaufman is Barry Sanders right now. I mean, it was designed to go off the right side. Nothing happened. He just skated along the line, behind the line of scrimmage, until he found an opening. And that time it happened to be way outside to the left. And don't forget, Thursday, Thanksgiving Day, who's on TV?
What a segue, Sam, to Thanksgiving Day Classic, Kansas City at Detroit. We had to have you do the promos every time. Hostetler in trouble this time, avoids one defender, and now runs for the first down. I think he got it. He did get it. What a play by Hostetler, who so many times this entire season has improvised the Raiders' successes, what they have had on offense.
Let me tell you, see Mike White right there. As we watch Jeff Hostetler attempt to throw the ball, nothing there, so he scrambles. The coach right now, the heartbeat goes up from about 120 beats a minute to 240, somewhere in that range. And right here, it jumps into that 1,000, 1,050, something like that. But when he sees the quarterback peek up to see if he made the first down, he knows he's okay.
Voss picking up yardage on the ground as well. Raiders in a long drive. Hostetler hanging in. This time he goes down. Dean Wells gets the sack. I believe that's Dean's first sack of the season.
All-out blitz that time. Terry Wooten was coming from the left side of the You'll see Wooten coming from over here. The count was a long count, and because it was a long count, Jeff Hostetler and the rest of the Raiders had a chance to see where that blitz was coming because everybody tipped it. But they have always left a safety in the middle, always get that one free safety to help out down the field.
And he has been sacked a lot as a Raider, 123 total coming into this game. Second down and long, the delay to Kaufman up the middle. Kaufman with a big gain. Still a few yards short of the first down. It'll bring up third down. Robert Blackman brought him down in the Seattle defensive secondary.
If you're an aspiring defensive coordinator somewhere, we watch the end zone look at how this appears to the defensive eyes as they look at what's happening. If you're a defensive coordinator, after you sack a quarterback, look out for the screen or the draw on the next play, because what you've just said to your opponent is, we're getting to your quarterback. You better counter and you better not drop back and throw it again.
Kaufman's got 95 yards as he inches to a 100-yard game. Final seconds ticking off of the third quarter. Third down and 3. Hostetler hangs in, complete for another first down inside the 10-yard line to Andrew Glover. And that is the final play of the third quarter. As we head to the fourth, Oakland with a 17-13 lead, but on the march to try to extend their lead.
Number 68 is an eligible receiver.
Scoring through 3 quarters, Oakland had the 2 touchdown tosses by Hostetler in the second. And the teams have exchanged third quarter field goals. The Raiders with a 17-13 lead over the Seahawks as we begin the fourth quarter. And the ball inside the 10, first and goal for Oakland after the Andrew Glover reception. Up the middle goes Derek Fenner down to the 1-yard line, dragging 2 or 3 Seahawks with him, including Corey Harris. Derek Fenner, the big fullback, 6'3", 245 pounds.
And it showed up right there. Just mass shows up. Not only has he got the mass, but he's got the speed as well. And you saw that Andrew Glover was in the backfield, lined up as the lead blocker. So you've got Glover at 250 pounds and Fenner at 245. A lot of beef.
93 and 68.
There's plenty of beef. If you look just in front of Fenner now, Jerry Ball has checked into the Raider lineup on 2nd and goal. And he goes right behind Jerry Ball. Fenner does, and Fenner can't get in. Jerry Ball goes 6'1", 325. A lot of beef up there, Sam.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, that beef got just stuffed right back into the blender on that one. Watch Jerry Ball on the lead block. Watch if he's going in, and let's see if he comes out any faster than he goes in. Watch, here he goes. Bam, and bam. Here I come back. Thank you. Oh, no. Maybe it was a sucker block because he was pulling Mike Sinclair back out of that hole.
He was just a decoy, right?
Yeah. He had me.
There he is.
I thought he was going to block.
93 in front of 34. Fenner tries the left side. Second effort. Gets in. Yes, touchdown. They've called it. Second rushing touchdown of the season for Derek Fenner. And Oakland adds to its lead.
Mano, mano. All this is man. And you see the left guard right there. Wisniewski is going to pull around so that the tackle can block down and the tight end on the left can block down. And then it's just muscle against muscle. You're only going for a yard or a yard and a half. All year long, these teams have played close football games. We pointed out early in the game that the Raiders have, of their 7 losses, 6 of them have been by 6 points or less. So they've been involved in these tight games. This one's not over.
Cole Ford adds the extra point. And in the first few seconds of the 4th quarter, Oakland muscles this one in for a 24-13 lead. World famous Space Needle amid the Seattle skyline, and a impressive drive for Seattle. 12 plays, nearly 6.5 minutes, 76 yards. Derek Fenner still celebrating his 1-yard touchdown run as the Raiders have built an 11-point lead. Ronnie Harris with the kickoff return for Seattle, still on his feet and brought down at the 28-yard line by Oakland's Orlando Truitt. Well, the longest playoff drought in the NFL, Seattle, the longest. It's been 8 years since Seattle in the playoffs. It's been a few years for the Oakland Raiders, and there's an old warrior who was a part of the last Seattle playoff spot. Joe Nash.
Joe Nash. We went up against him when I was at Cincinnati. Been a good player all the way through his career.
Seahawks from the 28. Chris Warren brought down after just about a yard gain by Greg Beaker.
Now with 13 minutes in the 4th quarter, each team's going to get the ball 3, maybe 4 more times. So each drive becomes more crucial.
As you look at some of the scores run by, the Giants handling the Dallas Cowboys rather easily. Just when it appeared the Cowboys were the top team in the NFC after the big win over Green Bay Monday night, the Giants are handling Dallas.
On any given Sunday. New phrase.
I'm going to write that down, Sam, as we get into the later stages of this game. There's a handoff to Warren. And restless fans here in Seattle let Dennis Erickson and Bob Brockowski, the offensive coordinator, hear about this play calling. They want to open it up a little bit more, I presume.
Well, Andre Bruce and Lance Johnstone made it happen. Turned on this crowd because they wanted just to hit a quick one. They were counting on the Raiders coming hard up the field in a pass rush, and they're going to hit a quick trap right up the middle. If it pops big, but it didn't pop.
Lamar Smith has replaced Warren in the backfield on 3rd and 9. Timing pattern to Mike Pritchard, turning around, a flag comes in as the pass is called incomplete. But that was Carl Kidd on the coverage for the Raiders, and could they be They might have another pass interference call on them. Terry McDaniel already has 2.
Well, I think they will, because no defender ever made an effort to look back for the ball. And if you run into a receiver without looking back, you're going to get called.
Pass interference, number 21, defense, automatic first down.
Well, it's called on Darren Carrington. Carrington is 21, but it appeared that that was Carl Kidd.
They may have the numbers wrong, but I think they've got the infraction right. Do you see Pritchard going up the field? Yeah, it is. It's Carl Kidd is the offender right there. They just called the number wrong. But see, Kidd never turned around. If he just looks back and reaches up for the ball, then the incidental contact is allowed, but not when you're running straight through the receiver.
Timeout. The chain crew is tangled.
The chain crew is what? I missed that.
The chain crew is tangled.
We've heard it all now from Jerry Markwright.
Gee, Jerry, I believe I'd have kept that one to myself.
Does he have to put that one on the PA?
Is anything sacred here?
The chain crew is tangled. Now, the Oakland Raiders have now amassed 89 yards in penalties. That one worth 25 on the pass interference. Meyer goes deep. Joey Galloway trying to run underneath it. He made the catch. Unbelievable.
Terry McDaniel can't believe it, because he's got coverage on Joey Galloway. They're running stride for stride. He's right in position. They both go for the ball. I think McDaniel thinks he's going to make the interception. What a football play. Anytime the ball's in the air that long, both guys are going to have a shot at it. Both either could have come down with that ball.
Rick Meyer reacting to the circus catch by Joey Galloway, who's got 99 yards on just 3 catches today. Remember the big 40-yard strike? That one good for 44 yards. And the Seahawks with another 1st and goal. And they'll call a timeout.
Well, they have to, because the 40-second clock was going to down to 1 second. This is one rule I think that the competition committee needs to review. We're going to get the call here from Jerry Markwright, but anytime there's a long play like that, or there's something going on, the 40 seconds isn't enough time for the reassemble of the teams, and they want to keep the continuity of the game going, set it up for 25 seconds. That's what Jerry Markwright did. He did the right thing.
1st and goal at the 2-yard line for Seattle. Meyer turns to Chris Warren. He's got the touchdown. Just the 3rd rushing touchdown allowed by the Raider defense all season long. Warren gets in, but it's the big 44-yard strike from Galloway that sets it up.
Right over Kendall, Atkins, Hawaii. Chris Warren finds his hole and gets right on in there, and it looks like they're going to go for 2, trailing by 5 points. This would put them within 3. Just one quick comment about what happened. There was no charged timeout a moment ago because of the extra delay after the play.
Seahawks go for 2. Try to pull within 3. Warren tries to get it, and he does it. All of a sudden, it's a 3-point game.
It must be a Raider-Seahawk game, huh?
The crowd beginning to approach the decibel level that these Raiders-Seahawk matches in the past have produced. Chris Warren goes in from 2 yards out. Also takes in the 2-point conversion for Seattle, and all of a sudden they are down by 3, 24-21. Todd Peterson kicking off. 11:09 left. Napoleon Kaufman from the 2-yard line. Straight up the right side. Brought down at the 23-yard line by Ronnie Harris. Seahawk players continuing to try to pump up the crowd. We'll be right back. Day. The NFL on NBC pregame show kicks it off at 12 noon Eastern. Joey Galloway, the speedster from Ohio State, and Sam, simply the Raiders don't have an answer for Galloway's speed. Terry McDaniel, the All-Pro, has been on him all game.
Well, I think that's the best answer. It just hadn't been enough.
Decibel level is up now as Hostetler tries to have his receivers hear him. Harvey Williams at the 23. And that's one of the things that Joe Nash brought up this week. He said in the old days of the Raiders and Seahawks, the Raiders used to practice with the loudspeakers cranked up like airplane noise because that was the kind of noise that was produced here in Seattle when these two teams met.
Well, you've got it's an indoor stadium, obviously, is one thing, but you've got a cement ceiling here, so everything reverberates right back down into those players' ears on the field.
Hostetler throws it away. Chased out of the pocket. That brings up 3rd and 9.
It's a good play. You see the expression of Hostetler. He's not unhappy that he threw an incomplete pass. What he did was save a loss. Take your lumps right there. The defense is going to win some of the battles and come back 3rd and 8 or 3rd and 9. Unless, of course, you commit an ignorant penalty, and that's what is just eating Mike White up.
Personal foul, illegal chop block, number 66, offense.
Kevin Gogan.
Half the distance to the goal, 2nd down.
Penalties continue to kill the Raiders.
Kevin Gogan right here. Chop block. Now, once the player's engaged, you can't hit him below the waist. That's not a chop block. Officials did not get that one right. He was following his block.
Over 100 yards in penalties for the Raiders. And there's still 10-15 left. Stopped at the 10 by Cortez Kennedy.
The Raiders have had luck earlier in the game with that play after a loss or a penalty like that. That's an unfortunate 10 yards against the Raiders and an unfair one because that was not a chop block. A chop block occurs when one offensive lineman is blocking a defensive lineman and then a second offensive lineman comes in and hits low. That didn't happen at all. There was no engagement by a second offensive lineman.
3rd and 22. Hostetler's going to run it out. He'll get no further than the 16 or 17-yard line. Michael McCrary chased him down.
The game of the blitz. Corey Harris blitzed from the offensive left side. Nothing there, and time ran out. Hostetler did all he could do is get as much as you can and line it up and punt the ball.
Well, we mentioned in the first half that Jeff Gossett had left the field. The Raiders told us that it was an undetermined rib injury, so apparently Jeff Gossett is hurt because Billy Joe Hobart, in a crucial punting situation for the Raiders, is back there to punt. Hobart is the backup quarterback. He's an excellent athlete, but he won't boom him like Gossett could have. And Ronnie Harris picks it up quickly. And so Seattle will begin with excellent field position after the relatively poor punt by Hobart. Well, moments ago on the sideline, Billy Joe Hobart getting some words of advice from Jeff Gossett there on the sidelines.
And Billy Joe not taking any advice from the daggone kicker, I can tell you that.
Sam, a little harsh. A little reverse here to Joey Galloway. Nice tackle made by Lorenzo Lynch to drag Galloway down.
It's a popular play. I'm sure that's one they practiced and they were ready for it. Galloway is a threat, not only as a receiver, he's had a tremendous day down the field making tough catches, but as a runner. That pure speed is scary anywhere on the field.
Galloway with a big day today receiving. Has set up a couple of Seahawks scores. Myers sends him out to the right. part of a 4 wideout package now on 2nd down and 10 from the 49. Seahawks trailing by 3 with 8 minutes left, 24-21. Meyer across the middle to Brian Blades. Blades close to a first down to the Raider 41.
I think this is just short, but this is going to be a very important 3rd down call, because if they don't make it on 3rd and short, assuming it's not a first down, maybe it is. If they don't make it on 3rd down right here, then the decision is, with 7.5 minutes to go, trailing by 3, do you go for it or do you punt the ball back, try to pin them again? And that's the guy that's got to make that call. And that's why it's so nice to be up here next to you, Dan.
No longer making those decisions on Sunday, Sam, just critiquing them high above the action. 3rd and short, less than a yard. That is Lamar Smith trying to pick it up. Raider defense there right at the first down stick. That's going to be very close.
This is that old left-right that we have talked about. Everybody knows is when that official comes in, you know, he's going to spot it where he thinks forward motion is, and he's going to give it his best guess. But if his left foot hits, it's not good. If his right foot hits, it is. Coaches on the sideline can't do a thing about it except body language and a little bit of lean. Get it! Get it! Oh, he's clearly got it made. No problem.
Meanwhile, the Raiders have their own opinions. The defensive coordinator, Fred Whittingham, doing the opposite body English on the other sideline. And Lamar Smith, is that as close as it gets?
Well, I'll tell you, for a chain gang that's been tangled today, that was a crucial one.
Much. Well, you have to believe at this point of the ball game your offense can pick up 2 inches, right? Go for it.
You've got to believe it. Not only this point in the ball game, this point in the season at home. You're going to go for it. Really, if you punt the ball, your gain in distance is not going to be great unless you can pin them in the corner. Almost 7 minutes left to go in the game, though. Take your shot right here.
And Seattle will.
Many times this comes down just to the spot of the official.
Sneak by Meyer. He might have been stopped. Now the ball is loose. Mike Jones laterals it. Terry McDaniel is running toward the end zone. But the play had been whistled dead long before all of that. The Raiders celebrating stopping Seattle, though, on 4th and inches.
Now, the Raiders ought to celebrate because they made a nice play, but they didn't win the ball game with that play. There's still a lot of football left, and they can't assume that because they held them on this particular 4th down that they've won this game. They got to get their mindset for a tough finish to this game. Whistle blew, so that fumble didn't count.
So the Raider defense holds. All Seattle needed was a couple of inches. So Oakland takes over on downs with 6:36 left at a 24-21 lead. And in good field position from their own 42. Turns the corner and heads upfield close to midfield. Rick Meyer unsuccessful on that play. Other than that, he has played a good ball game, but just unable to pick the right hole on the sneak.
And we've talked about it before, but this is the rest of the season is going to be tough on this guy. You know, you can't go into a ball game without having part of your thought process knowing that you're not going to be here, that you're playing your 5th to the last ball game that you're going to play in this uniform in this stadium as the starting quarterback. And to come in here, pull all of that aside and to play hard and to know what you're doing, it's a credit to Rick Meyer.
Well, Napoleon Kaufman has an even 100 yards now after that carry. 2nd and 3. And he'll add to it. Into Seattle territory, and he probably picked up the first down. Michael McCrary on the stop. A reminder that following the game on most of these stations, it's Dateline Sunday. And it's must-see comedy of Third Rock from the Sun, followed by the network premiere of Maverick, starring Mel Gibson, Jodie Foster, and James Garner. That's tonight on NBC. Viewers on the West Coast will see these shows at their regularly scheduled times. Clock continuing to roll. 5.5 minutes left. Seahawks with all 3 of their timeouts left. The Raiders with 2. And with another first down. Play action. Hostetler chased out of the pocket, and Ricky Dudley can't hang on again. Robert Blackman on the coverage of the huge tight end.
And the Seattle Seahawks are getting more and more aggressive on defense, bringing more blitzers. You see Sinclair, Terry Wooden found the ball quickly. The ball is really released. They had a chance. I don't think they'd have made a thing because Blackman was right there to make the tackle behind the line of scrimmage. Might have been a good thing for the Raiders. He dropped the ball. But you're seeing a very aggressive right now with 5 minutes to go. Both sides have nothing to say for next week.
Harvey Williams gets it down close to the 42-yard line. You're right, Sam, with both of these teams really not exactly mathematically out of the playoffs now, but certainly with Oakland's 3 losses in a row and at 4-7, it would take a miracle for them to get in. Seattle's loss to Detroit last week was huge. They're 5-6. So it gets down to that good old-fashioned AFC West pride shootout.
But there are plenty of stories of teams in the past that have run the tables with 5 games to go.
You never know, you're right. Crucial 3rd and 6 for Oakland. Haas gets rid of it to Darryl Hobbs, who's streaking down the sidelines. Inside the 15. Big 3rd and 6 conversion for Hostetler. Hobbs hauls in his very first pass of the game, and it's a huge game at a critical time.
It looked like Seattle came with what is called a fire zone or a zone blitz, where safeties and linebackers rush and defensive linemen drop off into coverage.
Number 68 is an eligible receiver. 68 is eligible.
Mike Sinclair, number 70, actually dropped into coverage and had that responsibility. Ends up making the tackle, but way too far downfield to do any good for the Seahawks.
29-yard gain by Hobbs.
Rick Cunningham eligible again, number 68, who caught a touchdown earlier in the game.
TD in the second quarter. Raiders just get it off. Derek Fenner pulls his way inside the 10, close to the 7-yard line. Robert Blackman on the stop in the secondary for Seattle.
What the Raiders are doing, they only have 2 active tight ends, so they're putting Andrew Glover in the backfield as the fullback, and then they put Rick Cunningham in along with Ricky Dudley as the 2 tight ends in the 2 tight end set.
Red zone defense, mentioned earlier in the game, has been a problem most of the season for Seattle, and Oakland trying to drive in here.
The Raiders have been down here 3 times and come away with 3 touchdowns in this tight.
2nd and 3 from the 7. Derek Fenner down to the 6. That'll bring up 3rd and 2. Approaching the 2-minute warning. Raiders with a 3-point lead.
They'll have to snap the ball before the 2-minute warning, though. There's about 5-second differential on the 40-second clock and the game clock. This play on 3rd down is big because the 3-point difference now, a field goal making it a 6-point difference, doesn't secure the win for them. A touchdown might do it.
Fenner stopped in his tracks, backed up by Seattle. The 2-minute warning.
2-minute warning.
And 4th down for Mike White and the Raiders. Well, with the Raiders' regular holder, punter Jeff Gossett out with injured ribs. Jeff Hostetler, who has been holding on extra points, holds now here in a critical short field goal attempt by Cole Ford.
You know, the reason the punter holds a lot is that during practice, while the rest of the team's practicing offense and defense, they have nothing to do. So the holder is the punter because they practice all the time. But now the quarterback, the backup holder, in a crucial hold.
Cole Ford has had his problems from short distances this season. This from 26. Hold is good by Haas, and Ford pumps it through.
Just before the ball was snapped, a fan threw a big cushion out on the field, reminiscent of some snowballs I've been around.
Oh, maybe we'll get into that when we come back to Seattle. Well, Sam, we've just received this exclusive videotape of the cushion that was thrown to try to distract Cole Ford. So the evidence being taken out underneath the tunnel amid plenty of police help out there.
Obviously being contaminated as it was. They won't get the fingerprints off of that cushion, or whatever prints they look for.
Randy Harris comes back for Seattle, slips and falls at the 13, gets back up, and is able to bring it across the 15-yard line with 1:49 left. Well, there was a big upset in the NFC East today. Let's go to our studios and hear about it from Greg.
Dan, it was the shocker of the day. This second quarter action, pretty typical of the way things went. Troy Aikman to Michael Irvin. He has it. He's hit. He fumbles. Tito Wooten picks it up and returns 54 yards for the touchdown. Dallas beaten by the New York Giants today, 20-6. The Cowboys are 7-5. The Giants improved to 5-7, Dan.
All right, can you figure out this NFL season?
This one's been, it's what they hope for, parity. They want every game to be unknown in terms of the outcome.
From the 16, Carlister Crumpler with his first reception of the game. 1:44 left. The Seattle Seahawks trailing by 6, 27-21. They have all 3 of their timeouts left, and we talked about how Rick Meyer can showcase his talent, Sam. This is a good time to do it.
This is it, and they practice. This is exactly what you practice, about a minute. You never say in practice 2 minutes. You give it 1:45, 3 timeouts, 2 timeouts. Not a bad situation. They've been here before.
Second down, a long 4. Meyer back to pass again, picks up the first down. Mike Pritchard at the 32. Carl Kidd on the coverage. Clock stops with 1:40.
Pick up 10 or 11 yards, took 4 seconds. There's plenty of time to move down the field. Now, they don't have to throw the ball to the outside because of their timeouts. Put the ball down the middle. Most of the time, defenses will play an outside technique, try to force everything inside to make you use those timeouts so that the clock becomes effective.
Rick Meyer again. His first start since the end of September, in for the injured John Freeze, trying to rally the Seahawks to victory. Dumps it over the middle to Warren. Warren drags a couple of Raiders for the first down. It appeared he might have been short until Warren put on the extra effort to get across the sticks. Mike Morton finally part of the Raider defense that brought him down at the 45. Clock continuing to roll. Meyer brings him up to the line. This time he can't escape. Meyer takes the sack.
And the clock will stop only long enough for the official to spot the ball unless Seattle takes a timeout, and they do.
Well, Seattle uses the first of its 3 timeouts in the second half. Dennis Erickson's got 1:09 to work with. John Freeze, the Seattle starter, on the sideline watching the action, hobbling around on crutches, fractured leg. It's in the hands of Rick Meyer.
Rick Meyer is a quarterback that at Notre Dame in college played in big games like this. This is, even though he's a relatively young player in terms of time played in the National Football League, this is not going to scare him. This situation is something he's familiar with.
He lost a couple of yards on the sack, so it's second down and 12 from the 43. Again, the Seahawks with 2 timeouts remaining. Meyer avoids another sack and runs out of bounds just to about the original line of scrimmage, so that'll bring up 3rd and 10. He did a good job of escaping another big loss.
Mobility in a quarterback is an asset that every coach wants, because you can make something happen when something else breaks down. This time Pete Kendall, the left guard, can't hold him out long enough, and the recovery comes from the quarterback scrambling outside and then getting out of bounds with 1:01 remaining. They've got 2 snaps now. It's 3rd and 10, but they'll use the 4th down, of course.
Gets it complete, short of the first down. Mike Pritchard, the receiver, into Oakland territory, and the Seahawks will use another timeout, so just 1 left for Seattle with 51 seconds to go. Good time to remind you that we have more action on NBC next Sunday, beginning at 12 noon Eastern time, the pregame show, and then most of you will see Buffalo take on Indianapolis, the Bills, a hot team in the NFL, Pittsburgh taking on Baltimore, Cincinnati taking on Jacksonville. And in the second half of the doubleheader, we've got these Raiders hosting the Miami Dolphins and the Denver Broncos off a scintillating win at Minnesota today to run their record to 11-1. Host these Seahawks in Mile High Stadium in the second part of our doubleheader.
You know, you watch a coach on the sideline on a crucial fourth down call. You see the stress in his face. Mike White, of course, going through the same pressure cooker. I know, having been there a little while, that these are the moments that you dread being in when you're there, but you miss them the most when you're not. That's the way it is.
It's surprising. You were telling us that what you missed most was making the tough decisions.
That's right. Being in the loop and making the toughest calls. Sometimes it's a call, though, on a weekend, having to cut a player, but this is a tough one right here.
4th and 2 for Seattle to try to stay alive, and whistles stop the play. And Oakland may have called a timeout. Jerry says yes, they did.
That's what happened. The Oakland Raiders apparently didn't have everything exactly the way they wanted it.
Second charge, 30-second timeout.
So both the Raiders and the Seahawks left with one timeout, 51 seconds left.
Now that's the right thing to do. If you're not absolutely sure, here's 4th down, the game's on the line, call timeout and get it right.
NBC tonight, Thanksgiving alien style on an outrageous all-new Third Rock. Then at 8:30, 7:30 Central, the movie blockbuster Maverick. Mel Gibson, Jodie Foster, James Garner starring in the network premiere of Maverick. The special time after Dateline and Third Rock comes your way tonight on NBC. Seahawks trying to pull to the 500 mark if they can somehow come back, get a touchdown and the extra point to win this game. The Raiders, meanwhile, trying to snap that ugly 3-game losing streak. The last 2 losses ending in overtime losses to Tampa Bay and Minnesota. And you know how the rumor mills can get cranked up, Sam. Mike White has been in the center of it a lot this week as to the safety of his job.
A lot of the rumors came from a guy named Joe Anonymous, someone on the team that wouldn't reveal his identity. What they ought to do is Al Davis ought to find that guy and get rid of him, because that's the kind of a loser that gets you beat.
4th and 2. Meyer stumbles heading back. And the Raiders will take over on downs.
Everybody held their breath on the Raiders sideline to see if a penalty was going to be called on McDaniel on that one, because it was close.
Erickson thought there should have been one. That's what he was upset about.
Good football game, though. Hard fought on both sides. Look at every fiber you got is into that play right there. Multiplied by every player on the sideline, every coach, and every owner, general manager upstairs.
And Dennis Erickson has had his share of ups and downs this year. He had the miracle win field goal block that won the game over Houston, but a devastating loss last week when his field goal kicker's attempt was wide right. They lost to the Lions. It was a slow start for the Oakland Raiders, beginning the season at 1-4. They did put together a 3-game winning streak, but this 3-game losing streak about ready to come to an end here in Seattle. And Rick Meyer, your grades on Rick in his first of 5 to end the season for Seattle.
Well, he's a gamer. Here's a guy that hasn't been in the lineup. He came in, he played well. He made plays for this football team. His mobility clearly showed up. State of mind was put aside for this ball game. This was just a beautifully played game, well coached on both sides of the ball. One team has to lose it, and one team's the winner. This time it's going to be Mike White and the Oakland Raiders going home happy.
The Oakland Raiders win it by a final score of 27-21. They up their record to 5-7. Meanwhile, the Seahawks fall to the same 5-7 mark. We'll take a break. The Raiders win it by 6.